Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Rick Walker with Maverick News and Maverick Multimedia, and I'm here with my co-host, Brenden Kennedy, whose microphone is muted, and our coverage of Freedom Convoy 2022 Cruise into the Capitol continues tonight. And we are here, Brenden. Why? Because people can't rely on whom?
The mainstream media.
Yeah. As we've seen, there's a huge contrast between what we've been providing and others at the scene have been providing in the way of live, unedited, unfiltered, uncensored video and commentary from the scene in Ottawa, and what we have been seeing from the major so-called mainstream or legacy media outlets, some of which I would suggest to you is propaganda. Some of it is just outright lies, and some of it is half-truths, but very little of it is accurate. Some reporters have been fair, but the general tone has been one that makes it pretty clear that the so-called mainstream media has a bit of an agenda. And a lot has happened today. What are we looking at here, Brenden? What kind of things do we have to bring to people tonight?
Oh, well, there's some updates in regards to different provinces that have essentially more or less are going to be getting on board with getting rid of the vaccine passport. Looks like there's some pressure being applied in Alberta with Jason Kenney, and he has made some vague statements about having the health pass removed. So we're going to have to wait and see a little bit more on that. Alberta Beef Association is putting pressure because of the situation at the Alberta-Coots border, which has been escalating, and there's been even more trucks going in and adding to their blockade of the border. Things seem pretty quiet on the Ottawa front. The mainstream media is throwing out questions to the government like, oh, do you think we're going to bring the military in to solve any of these problems? And Justin Trudeau's standpoint at this time is that there's to be no military involvement. So it's going to be a bit of time before we see what type of things the government has in their hand, but it's still the great Canadian standoff, I would have to say.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The great Canadian standoff. It is really, in a sense, a form of warfare, but this has been a very peaceful war. It's been a war that has been fought with trucks and with dancing in the streets and just a lot of, it's and speeches and sort of a traditional protest types of things, but this has been no traditional or regular protest. This thing has been huge, and it's pretty clear that it has grown from just a grassroots level. It's been very organic. It's not like a labor organization or a non-governmental organization or some political, well-organized, well-fueled political group put this thing together. It's like this is something that's come really directly from the people, and that's why we're seeing it spread across the country to Alberta. And I know that there is a convoy that is being organized to send to Queen's Park in Toronto. It's spreading across the country, and we've even seen it inspire similar convoys in other countries.
I did get word today that the Sarnia-Ontario border does have about a number of tractors, so about 50 tractors that have been doing a slow roll. I'm not fully aware of what their intentions are at this time, but that'll be a waiting game.
And we do have some people on the scene in Ottawa keeping tabs on what's going on down there, sending us videos. Our main person there, our eyes and ears on the ground, your eyes and ears, the eyes and ears of the public for the public, has been Carla Olson, who has been joining us the last few nights, and she's been sending us videos. And I'd like to roll this video with her for a few minutes. She's going to take us on a little tour around Parliament Hill right now and just let us know what's going on. This video was shot just a few hours ago, and we have some other videos shot even more recently, but this is what it looks like on Parliament Hill today.
So the speeches have started, and there's a pretty good crowd here. Just caught a really powerful speech. I wish I would have had my phone up, but my battery's, it's colder here today, so my battery isn't lasting as long. So I think I'm going to bring you guys for a little tour around just to see the crowd, see what's happening. Now the police are here. There's groups and groups of police. I had to walk and look for one just to give that girl's phone back. Met a really nice cop. He was really good. He was surprised I didn't, he was just good. He was just a nice guy. I don't want to say too much, but yeah, he was a really good guy. Yeah, the vibe is still the same. Yeah, there was that one girl, but that's one person. Maybe she's an agitator. I don't think so, though. I think she's someone who is just done. She's done. I mean, she's been filled with all this hate. Justin Trudeau has created that with people, and it's so sad. It's so sad that that's the way he is. So that's why I prayed for her. You know, every single human being deserves to feel the joy and the peace that we all have here today. Yeah, so there's more people. I'm just gonna move this camera around, let you see people, and kind of gonna walk back here a little bit. So you're stuck with my mug for a minute. I'm gonna kind of just start and just walk you guys into the crowd, just so you can see. I'm gonna walk up on the hill, just pan the area. Who knows? Maybe I'll run into someone kind of neat. Maybe I can talk to someone. Gets pretty loud there when the trucks are blowing. I've got Matt bringing me an external mic, so maybe it'll be a little bit easier for you to hear the people when I interview them. So. Right outside of this one church town, there's a gold dirt road to a whole lot of nothing. Got a deed to the land, but it ain't.
So the trucks are all still there.
God's country. Indeed, it is moving. God's country. Look at his people. Hey. Thanks for coming. Like, aren't people beautiful? I'm telling you. I've always been a lover of people, but I am truly awestruck with people today. I mean, I've been 7 days into this. I don't want to leave. Oh, there's that little dog. I like this guy. I want to wreck your view here. Can I sneak it? Right ahead. Don't worry about me. All right. Guy's got a pretty big camera there. Oh, you got some new flags. They weren't here. All right, let's go up on the hill. So those of you that watched early morning around 9:30 when I first got here, you saw that, you know, the people weren't quite here yet. They were going to have church up here again like they did yesterday. I missed it. I was lucky enough to get here. I wonder where these purple flags are. Let's check them out. Bonjour. So it must be a group that came together. That's what the guy just said. They've heard of like. Really? I don't either. Looks like a priest or a minister of some sort. Over there. Lots and lots of kids. Did you guys notice how close that girl was to that little child that was at the little stand where she kicked that guy's coffee in that other video? Justin Trudeau tried to destroy humanity. He can't do that. We're not his people. I'm so grateful for the amount of people that are doing exactly what I'm doing, putting up Facebook Lives. Hopefully, we can continue to show the world what's actually happening here.
You know, one of the things that I would comment on, I seen in a lot of news articles that said there was about 250 people remaining there, but that looks a bit more than 250.
It is more.
Rick Nichols is standing by, just having some technical difficulties. I'm just trying to walk him through it.
And the horns are still going off, sending a message directly to the Prime Minister's office. So what do you make of this, Brenden, after seeing this footage?
Every time I hear those horns go off, like it just brings a smile to my face. I can't get enough of it. I think we're seeing a lot more numbers of people there than what we're seeing on main outlets like CBC and CTV. Like, there's definitely more than 250 people there.
Yeah, because they're spread out too, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not what we were seeing on the weekend, but that's because just the average person that went down there had to go back to work or back to their life, but the truckers have dug in, and that's what we're seeing. This is a standoff, and there are a lot of trucks still on Parliament Hill.
The funny thing is it seems to me like the Ottawa police are like, well, we're not going to deal with this. We'll let, why doesn't the RCMP deal with it? And then they go, well, why doesn't the Army deal with it? Nobody has any direction on like what they're going to do about it. And so I'm kind of curious about what the final solution for them is going to be on it. In either case, we do have like a big victory here. With everything that we have done, it's a great Canadian moment, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, we had a bit of a stream issue there.
Yeah, little glitch in the internet, so I was disconnected momentarily.
So Rick Nichols did message me. He is coming on. He's going to come and give some commentary on the situations that's been happening.
And
He's
just to
gonna
explain to people who Rick Nichols is.
So Rick Nichols is the independent MPP for Chatham-Kent-Leamington, and he was a former member of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario. He was ousted from that party after refusing to be vaccinated. So since then, he's been sitting as an independent. He still works out of Toronto at the Queen's Park Legislature. So it'll be interesting to kind of get his perspective, especially if there is going to be convoys rolling in on Queen's Park, just like Brian had told us last night. So
Brian who?
The truck driver?
Right. Yeah, just need to make sure people understand who we're talking about, especially because people are tuning in from around the country and even other countries. So just need to explain. Brian was a truck driver from Northern Ontario who has been to Ottawa. He's going back to Ottawa and says that he suffered severe side effects after taking his first Pfizer vaccine shot, had blood clots in his legs.
And in his lung.
Yes. And we'll be hearing more from Carla. And apparently she was sort of assaulted today by someone who was not happy with the protest happening down there on Parliament Hill. But as you heard, she was praying for the person. And I think it was resolved in a nonviolent way. So that's fortunate. And I don't think she was hurt. So
no, she was not hurt at all. We do have the footage of it.
Yeah, we'll run that for people later, just so you can see kind of what's going on down there. But right now, it looks like Rick Nichols, member of provincial parliament for Chatham-Kent-Leamington in Ontario, is here with us. He's joined us live.
Gentlemen, how you doing?
Great, Rick. How are you?
I'm doing well, Rick. Brenden, thanks again for inviting me. Sorry, I had a few little technical difficulties, but managed to get through it.
We appreciate you joining us.
Me as well. It's really good to see you again. I hope everything's been well. We wanted to bring you on to talk about your perspective about how things have been unfolding across the country. Like we have a real fire of freedom brewing at this point.
That we do, and I'm very impressed with everything that's going on right now. It's unfortunate that MSM, Main Street media, are not doing it justice at all. And I find that extremely frustrating. But we have to remember that Trudeau, in fact, has paid, $1.5 billion to CBC a while back, and I believe other mainstream media receive funding as well. So basically, they've been told, don't cover it. And that is... to me, that's very discouraging. That's disheartening. That's absolutely wrong. And I would also suggest that if people advertise in those papers, don't. Like shut them down. Shut them down. I mean, this is disgraceful what they're doing. They're hiding the truth from people. You get these, you get these horrible reports coming out of Ottawa saying that they're desecrating, they're defacing monuments, they're wearing, flags with inappropriate symbols on them. Those are not the truckers. Those are, in fact, plants. As a matter of fact, I was talking with, and I'm in touch daily with a trucker down there. And I said, listen, walk around, give me a report, tell me what's going on. He said, Rick, it's peaceful, it's nice. The police are respectful. We're not causing any trouble at all. And apparently, one of the instigators, who in fact was wearing an inappropriate flag on his back, was removed. They just said, hey, your face is totally covered. We don't know who you are. And you are not welcome here, so you leave now if you know what's best for you. And that person scampered off. So that's good news. That's good news. But it's so frustrating, that they refuse to tell the truth, mainstream media. So shame on them. Thank goodness for individuals such as you, Rick, and Brenden, and other other podcast people across the country who are seeking the truth. And you know what? And the truth, as they say, will set you free.
Well, we thought that we should do something because we saw that this was really, I think anyway, an organic movement. It's something that's just grown from the grassroots, from the people. It's not like it was some well-oiled political machine that put this thing together. This is just, it just seems like it's a lot of very upset Canadians who are tired of having their freedoms stripped away, and they want Canada back.
And you know what? And we will get it back too. I mean, I was on a major podcast. Actually, it wasn't a podcast. It was a Zoom meeting this afternoon with key individuals across Canada right now. And we're doing our best to try and get a message out to all the different premiers. And our message needs to be consistent. It needs to be, correct messaging. We're also looking for ways of saying, look, in this case for me and in Ontario, we've got Ford who, oh my gosh, he just keeps flip-flopping all the time, and it's so disheartening. However, we're saying, listen, we need to be able to provide him with a way to exit gracefully. And I know that, in other words, well, as you know, many years ago, I taught the Dale Carnegie training program, and one of the human relation principles that I often utilize, it's just become a part of my nature, is make the fault seem easy to correct. So basically what we're saying is, Premier Ford, we want to give you an exit plan so that it allows you to save face, and it accomplishes what we want to accomplish, what the people want to accomplish, and it'll help you kind of get out of this mess. Because I think right now, he is, in a sense, painted himself into a corner, and he doesn't know what to do. Honestly, I don't. He's listening to the wrong people. I have said to him time and time again, even when I was in caucus, I had suggested to him with the advice that the science table was giving him, I felt it was the wrong advice. Now, who am I, right? Am I a doctor? No, I'm not a doctor. But I was a caucus member, and I had the freedom to at least ask the question. And I would challenge the doctors on their numbers, and a lot of times their numbers just didn't add up. Now, am I all for keeping people safe? Absolutely. Do I believe this virus is real? Absolutely. Am I an anti-vaxxer? Absolutely not. I am not an anti-vaxxer. But I want what's best for the people, and I see what's happening. And when you take a look at the effects, Rick, Brenden, the mental health effects that it's having on people, it's like, oh my gosh, I mean, we think that the cost to, buy all these vaccines that Trudeau has bought up, that he has shares in, and he does. And there's just so much conflict of interest in all of that scenario that I'm saying, listen, there's got to be a way out of this. We've got to do it gracefully. We're going to kind of let you down easy, but you got to follow. You've got to. And so we're strategizing right now to come up with ways on how to do it. And I understand, have you heard that the truckers are coming to, not all, but some of the truckers are coming to Toronto?
Yes, we have heard that. And, that doesn't really surprise us. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that, Doug Ford's got to get the message. And so what I want to do is get ahead of the truckers, if I can, and get to Doug and say, Doug, look, they're coming. You know what they're there for. We don't want them, plugging up routes. They're not so that, ambulance can't get to hospitals. That's not, the truckers will not do that.
No.
Okay. But I'm very disappointed in Toronto Star. I'm very disappointed in CTV, Global News, CP24. Those are all some of the major outlets down in Toronto. National Post. They had better cover this properly. Because I've said to people, they say, Rick, what do we do? What's the solution? What's the solution? And I'm sure you've noticed we've been to rallies before, guys, and there's never ever any mainstream media present at all, whether it
No.
be just locally, which I get it. Although maybe it'd be nice if maybe some responsible journalist, from our daily or weekly papers would show up to get the story, but get it right. But I also know that I was down at a rally in Toronto in the summertime, and there was only one news outlet there, and that was Rebel News. That was it. All the others knew. I mean, how do you not avoid, finding out or knowing about anywhere between 15 and 20,000 people showing up at a rally just outside of Queen's Park? And when I say Queen's Park, I'm talking about the actual park, which is behind Queen's Park, the building. You've got Queen's Park, the park. And the numbers there were just unbelievable. So I said, how do we get the message? And they're not coming to us. So one of the thoughts was, well, then why don't we stage protests? We do it strategically, and we set up shop in front of their buildings. In other words, we get right in their face, peacefully. But they can't. We got a bunch of radicals out there. No, and you hand them a piece of paper, which is kind of like a press release saying, here's who we are, here's what we're here for, and these are our key talking points. Make sure you do this. And if they don't do that, and we record that as well, and we're giving it to them, so that if they go off script and they go down a rabbit hole, we at least can go back and say, no, you know what? Here's what they've said, and here's what we actually did, and show the contrast and embarrass them.
I think they're toast anyway. Like the CBC numbers and everything like that. They're done for. And I think that this has brought so much attention to that in particular. Like this is blowing the whole thing out of the water. How do you feel about this coming to Toronto this weekend? I don't think anybody has any idea how big it is, but I know you're there quite often as you work at Queen's Park. So do you think it's going to have an impact? Do you think Doug Ford's worried?
Well, actually, if he continues to listen to the people he's listening to, he'll pull a Trudeau. He'll pull a Trudeau. He may not say that he's got COVID, but he'll be. Groundhog Day was yesterday, and I saw 2 groundhog holes. Did you see that little cartoon where the groundhog comes up out of his hole, looks over at Trudeau, who sticks his head out of the other hole, and says, this is Groundhog Day. Is it safe to come out? But I don't know. There's so much going on in Ottawa right now. With Trudeau saying he's got COVID, and who knows where he is. And then you've got the bit of a shakeup with the Conservative Party of Canada. Finally, the MPs, Conservative MPs, came to their senses. Look, I liked O'Toole initially, and I have reached out to some of his key people and have shared my thoughts with him. But who am I? I'm just a corn-fed boy from Kent County, representing a population of roughly 120,000 people. The MPP for over 10 plus years. That should provide a little bit of credibility. I know a lot of the guys down there. And I said to him, he's got to change his tune, and so on. And he's got to start opposing Trudeau. Don't be going with him, because everybody was saying that he's liberal light. And as a result of that, that really, really has upset the Conservative base. And I don't care what political party, people belong to. I'm okay with whatever they belong to. But they have to understand that this narrative. But here's the other sad part, guys, and this. When someone's narrative is different from, say, your narrative, that person thinks that there's something wrong with you. You see that. And I have gone after Ford several times and said, Doug, do not create a 2-tier society. Do not pit those who have chosen to get vaccinated against those who have chosen not to get vaccinated. But it's like, don't confuse us with facts. Our mind's made up. We want mandatory vaccines. Well, who made up that rule? Who made that rule? And now they're crying because they're saying, well, there's the hospitals are overtaxed. Well, why is that? Oh, they don't have enough nurses. Did you not fire a bunch of nurses? And now you're looking for new ones? Wow. No wonder, the hospital, situation is dire. And people are saying that the healthcare system is broken. Gentlemen, you know it's broken. You know? But who broke it?
We were there with you. We were there with you at that day. There was we had lined up at the hospital like all together. That there's a number of people who were going to be fired or lost their job because they did not want to comply with the mandate, and it was well supported by the community. It's kind of funny that Ford ran on this platform, and I remember how awful things were under the Wynne years. Do you think anything in healthcare has gotten any better since when there was a big changeover?
Well, you know what? I mean, they changed the name. I remember back when I was in government, and in my first year, we had something called the LHINs, okay? And I think there were like 14 LHINs in the province. I could be wrong on that number, but close to it. And the Erie St. Clair LHIN, I think, was running fairly efficiently. But there were some LHINs that squandering money, blowing money left, right, and center. And so basically they said, we have to fix this. So then I believe they kind of took away Christine Elliott and her wisdom. She said, well, we're going to come up with a new name. We're going to call it the Ontario Health Teams. Okay. But I think that the LHINs by geography basically stayed the same. I know in our area it did, because the Erie St. Clair LHIN, covered Essex County, Kent County, Lambton County. And there were 5 hospitals. We had Windsor Regional, we had Hotel Dieu, we had Sun Parlor in Leamington, of course, Chatham-Kent Health Alliance, and we also had Sydenham as part of the Chatham-Kent Health Alliance. Then we also have Blue Water. So it's sorry, it wasn't Sun Parlor, it was Erie Shores. Forgive me, in Leamington, Erie Shores. So those were the 5. And they do a lot of work with trying to get equipment and different things, and looking for money and looking for ways of improving things. I initially thought that it was strictly the hospital CEOs that made the decision when Doug Ford came out and said, well, I don't want to mandate hospital workers to have to be mandated to get the vaccine, or as I call it, the experimental drugs. Christine Elliott doesn't like me when I say that, but that's what it is, in my opinion. But it was too little too late for Ford to make that comment, because the process had already started, where in fact, and I believe the 5 CEOs of the hospitals got together along with the Ontario Health Team, aka Erie St. Clair LHIN, and they had a discussion, and they had decided that they would in fact keep the mandates for vaccines in place. So they weren't about to go back. Can you imagine, Rick? I'm going to use you and Brenden as an example. So you both work at a hospital, right? And Rick, you didn't want to get vaccinated, but you didn't want to lose your job. Okay, I'll take the jab. Brendan's holding out. He has his timeline hasn't come up yet. And then all of a sudden they go, well, okay, you know what? We're not going to enforce the mandates. So Brenden, you don't have to worry about it. And Rick, well, you already got it, but you didn't want it. How would you feel, Rick?
Well, obviously, shortchanged for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very upset.
You forced me to get a vaccine I didn't want to get. I had to take it. I was coerced, and that is, that's criminal in my estimation. But here we are today. Here we are today.
Yeah.
So all of this kind of leads to, it was kind of one thing to another, to another, to another, and all of a sudden now people are saying, we've had enough.
You used a word there, criminal, and I tend to agree with you.
Yeah.
And we've seen Brian Peckford, the former Premier of Newfoundland, come out and sue the federal government. He's suing the federal government because, in his view, what they're doing is unlawful because they're breaching they've shredded the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And really at the heart of all of that, it really comes down to the loss of freedom, the loss of choice, the loss of control over what goes into your own body. What's your view on what Mr. Peckford has been saying? Is this unconstitutional? Is what they're doing, did they really have the authority to suspend the charter in order to do all of these things to us?
Excellent question, Rick. A couple of things. First of all, Peckford is, I think he's the only remaining, is he not? The only remaining founding father of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, right?
Yes.
That's correct.
So he had input into that. So having said that, now I look at the other powers to be, these political figures who think that, they're above the law. And because I think that they think that they're above the law, they don't care about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. They don't care about that at all. So to break it, they go, so what? We are going to hide under these emergency usage orders, which, by the way, they put in place fully knowing that, and this, I've argued this, as a matter of fact, the extension of the emergency use authorization, those orders, the emergency orders, had to be renewed in the Ontario legislature back in late November because it was expiring somewhere around the 1st of December. And I stood up vehemently opposed to the extension. And what I used was Christine Elliott, you know who she is, the Minister of Health, continually said, after every question that I would throw at her, left, right, and center, these vaccines are safe and effective. So I threw her words right back in her face. And when we debated, I'll tell you, that video is actually, it's on my website, ricknicholsmpp.ca. But that particular video, oh my gosh, I have no idea how many thousands of views that it has. So about 11-minute video. Yes. But in that video, I basically said, you know what? I am going to stand opposed to the extension of these emergency orders because the Minister of Health has continually said that these vaccines are safe and effective. And the only reason why they have these emergency orders is to protect the pharmaceutical companies so that if someone has an adverse effect as a result of being injected with whatever it is they're injecting them with, they are not held liable. You can't go back and sue the pharmaceutical company because it was under emergency orders. So going back to Peckford and his suing of the Ontario or of the provincial government,
actually federal government.
Yeah. Federal government, yeah.
Did I say provincial? Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's good.
Sorry, guys. Yeah.
It's okay.
God bless him, but you know what? You know what I say to that too? Stand in line. Stand in line. So we're going to drag it out until it becomes it's a non-issue, because by that time there'll be some form of a resolve. And again, now I go back to the meeting I had earlier today with some brain trusts across the country, where we're saying we've got to find a way to let them down easy, to allow them to save face, and yet we get what we want, and they get out of the pickle that they're in right now.
And it seems like the tide has turned, and in large part because of the truckers, also because we're seeing movement in other countries away from these kinds of mandates now, where things are being dropped. So does that give you some hope or optimism?
Oh, Rick, it sure does. It sure does. Eventually it's kind of like Ford. Trudeau, wake up and smell the roses. And I'm not talking about that fancy rose that Trudeau's father used to wear in his lapel. You know, I'm talking about, listen, this is real and people are fed up. And, you know, we're noted to be a peaceful country. And I've got to give the truckers just a ton of credit, just a ton of credit.
Big time.
You know, with how they've been conducting themselves before their convoy even started. You know, they had rules. The rules, you're going to sign. You want to be a part of the convoy, you're going to be in agreement with these rules. And if somebody gets carried away and starts doing some stupid things, which I'm sure has happened, they're removed. You're out of here. Go home. You know. So I have all kinds of respect, and like I said, I've got a trucker that I know. I actually met. I had a guy on the boots on the ground who actually met him in Comber and traveled with him to London, and they built up a relationship. My friend, my boots on the ground guy, interviewed him, did some video footage, patched me through. I did a phone interview with him. That's actually on my website as well, on my Facebook anyway. And it was wonderful. And now he's keeping in touch with us all the time. He gives us daily updates.
That's awesome. And we've been very fortunate as well. We have Carla. She's our boots on the ground in Ottawa, too. She's been feeding us all kinds of stuff. She'll be on later on tonight. But she's been absolutely wonderful in keeping everybody up to date with all the things that are happening every day. I was curious to know, this convoy has united Canada in a way I have not seen in my lifetime. What have you received any feedback from your constituents? I know it would not be uncommon for happy constituents and unhappy constituents to comment on it.
Yeah, I have. For the most part, we get a lot of people supporting my stance and what I'm doing. But then you get certain individuals who have always been those certain individuals ever since I've been in government for, been elected for 10 years. And they always like to write their letters to the editor. And my question is, where are you getting your data? You know, what newscast are you listening to? Mainstream media, that's what you're doing. You know, and you want to believe that they will believe what they want to believe. Not what they should believe, but what they want to believe. There's a big difference there, Brenden, as you know. So it's, but people, I mean, look at this video. You know, it's peaceful.
Yeah.
And you know, somebody said, well, you know, they're honking their horns at nighttime, and I have a baby, and that wakes my baby up, and so on. I think that the truckers are, for the most part, pretty respectable for everything. You know, so I think that's so critical that you know, they're conducting themselves like they're professionals. Somebody said, we got to shut down all the stores because there's going to be mass rioting and there's going to be violence in the streets and board up the windows. And somebody had apparently reported that a pallet or a skid of bricks had been dropped off in a certain location. I don't know whether you fellas have heard that or not, but
No.
you know, yeah, I mean,
we've not heard.
Yeah,
we've not heard any negative. Like the only negative stuff has been fueled by MSM, which almost.
The point being that has happened at other protests in other places around North America, and often it's because their agitators brought in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, yeah, and you know, you hear rumors of Antifa, and so the truckers know who the truckers are. And it's and I believe that, you know, they're policing it themselves. Has there been an occasional altercation, maybe with a police officer who wants to flex his muscles? Yeah, because I was talking with a gentleman who I know who is with Police on Guard, and he actually witnessed a police officer, you know, throwing open his car door when a guy walked up to him, just say, hey, how you doing, and so on, and he slammed his door into this innocent bystander, and that got the ire of the bystander. But unfortunately, this member of Police on Guard, who was he's actually a I don't know if he's still employed or if he's on leave or if he is now a former police officer, but he's one of the guys heading up police on guard. He was there. He witnessed it, and he stepped in between the two, and he had a few words with the police officer, and then told the guy, "Take a picture of him. Here's his name badge, or his name, and so on. We'll report it to his supervisor." And so on. I think that guy probably was wishing he had never opened his door, trying to flex it. But those are stories that are few and far between. But the problem is, and here's what I say to people. Back in my training days, I would say, how many remember pop quizzes at school? Well, I think all three of us can remember those.
Yeah.
And then I'd say, okay, and if you got 9 out of 10 on a pop quiz, what did you remember? The one I got wrong. You focus on the negative. And that's what's going on down here. There might be, unrelated incidents that happen. It's that one that people will say, oh, look at that. They're blowing it way out of proportion. People need to be smart, but they're not. They are feeding into a narrative that feeds into their narrative. And that is so wrong. People, are being too subjective. They need to be more objective and looking at what's really going on out there. And what they don't realize is that this isn't about, trucker vaccine exemptions. It's not about that. Brenden, Rick, you've already talked about this in your podcast. It's about our freedoms and everything. The ability that we can go to grocery stores, the kids can go to school, not have to wear masks. But mainstream, they just pile on the fear. And I get so upset about that. In my office, we get those calls, but it's interesting. I say to my staff, put those calls through to me. And they do. and I talk to them, just plain and simple. By the time we're done, I won't say that we're BFFs, but what I will say is that, that they at least have a better understanding and realize, oh, well, I hadn't really considered that. And so, it's critical that the real message, and of course, I may have, I think Brenden, I shot you a link to a video that I put out, about a 4-minute video, and which it's really what really the trucker protest is really all about, and then some.
Exactly. This is we need the government out of our lives. I mean, the government has overreached so far that we have health ministers telling people that whatever it is they do in their bedroom, they need to wear a mask while they're doing it. And that really pissed me off, because the government has no right to say anything about what you do in your bedroom. It has no right to tell you what you should be doing in your home. It was just an incredible overreach, and it's almost as if everybody ignored it. It was like, no, they don't get to say that. Like, that's ridiculous. And it is ridiculous. Like, we need out of this, and we need out of it now. I think you're absolutely right. And letting these politicians, we need to figure out a way to let these politicians get out of this by making them think it was their idea. And then that's what's going to kind of I think there might be some logic to that reasoning there. I think that is potential. It could work.
Well, people never argue with their own data, as a rule. As a rule. But we've got to kind of make the fault seem easy to correct, and show them a way out of this thing where they can save face and we get on with life. And then everybody's happy. Everybody.
How do we deal with a prime minister who uses phrases like unacceptable views, who labels all these truckers and and a huge portion of the Canadian population as fascists and sexists, misogynists, every ism and ist that he can throw at them? When you've got the prime minister slinging mud at the citizens, dividing the country, and just doubling down on it even now, and refusing to talk to them, where do you see all of this going? And even in Ottawa, where the deputy police chief is out there talking about ways to resolve this and talking about maybe having to bring in, the military because it might have to be a federal solution, and talking about how merchants are afraid to open their doors because the truckers might be violent, and the mayor of Ottawa talking about the costs of policing and cleanup down there at $800,000 a day and going after the GoFundMe money. You can really, with all of this stuff from the beginning and even now, you can draw a line right down the political divide, and you can see who's on this side and who's on that side and predict who's going to say what based almost on their political stripe. How do we deal with that and get beyond this?
Well, Rick, that's the $1,000,000 question, and I wish there was a silver bullet, to solve the problem, and there isn't. First of all, I think that when Trudeau's making his misogynist comments, his racial comments, talking hatred, he needs to have a mirror in front of him when he's saying that, and look himself right in the mirror and say, gee, I just called myself all those names, because that's what he is. You talk, and even in the States, gentlemen, you've seen the podcasts, you've seen some of the reports, how they're kind of making fun of Canada's prime minister. Well, rightfully so. And his, what was it, blackface? And I'm thinking, oh, for heaven's sakes, like, what is he doing? He just really honestly thinks that he's above everything. And it's like, don't you know who I am? I'm the Prime Minister of Canada. I have ultimate power, and I'm going to exercise it. I'm going to use it. Well, you know what? And sadly, if you did a very private polling within his caucus, you might discover what Aaron O'Toole discovered within his caucus, that there's a lot of people that are just, they're not happy, but they're trying to protect their political backside. I remember, Brenden, you're too young for this, but Rick, you may remember back when we were kids, there was some powdered flavored drinks that you could buy. You add water to it, and one of them was called Freshie, if you remember Freshie, and the other one was called Kool-Aid. Well, I'm so glad that I liked Freshie, because I sure as heck am not drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So I think that Trudeau would be very, very shocked. And then, I mean, that's almost like the uprising has to occur within his own caucus.
So do you think this has weakened Trudeau? I would say that this has really eroded his strength.
Rick, you're right. It has. But here's my concern. Who would have expected Trudeau, with everything going on and with what he's done, who would have expected him to actually have won the last election? Only diehard Liberals. But the rest of the country is going, how did he get in? And there was talk that he used some of the electronic voting machines that were used down in the States. I don't know about that, but I can tell you this, that recently the Elections Canada said, oops, we just discovered 205,000 ballots that weren't counted in the last election. We're so sorry. Well, there was 338 ridings in the country. You divide 338 into that 205,000, that's roughly 660, give or take, votes per riding. But I will say this, many a riding has been decided on less than 200 votes. So do you think, and I'm not, and even if it were a split, maybe it was, but a split between the Conservatives, the Liberals, and the NDP. I think that would have made a difference in some of those ridings that were decided where you had a Liberal. It'd be interesting to see, how many votes, say 500 or less, were decided. Who got it? And who came in second? Who came in second with less than 500 votes? And wondering, well, okay, if we were to take, say 300 of those votes that should have gone to a conservative, but they went to a liberal. Well, you know what? That liberal should be on the outside looking in instead of on the inside looking out. So there's so many problems with all of this. It's like it's so dishonest.
The way I reckon those votes, though, people who did mail-in voting were all liberals. I would say liberal NDP people who were told to stay home. I would wager, if you think about who stayed home, just that's just the first thing that came to my mind with it. But it could go either way with it. Does anybody think that there's going to be a different direction? Like, are they going to investigate that, or are they going to be like, well, it's done now. Sorry about your luck.
Oh, by the way, I apologize. I should have mentioned PPC in there as well, because you know what? I honestly felt that if there was a chance, an opportunity for the PPC, this last election was it. You guys worked your tails on, and even locally, to see. I believe Liz, did she not get maybe like the third highest vote count in the country for PPC? Yes. So kudos to Liz. Kudos to her team. So forgive me. I should have mentioned PPC as well.
And kudos to you two. I mean, you two used to be quite the opponents, I hear, and then there was your connecting, or your acquaintanceship has been rekindled. Just this past summer, like that was quite something. I believe she went into your office to exchange some words or something.
Yeah, what she did actually, yes. You know what? But Brenden, it was peaceful. It was peaceful, and I get it, and so on. Yeah, actually, we kind of rekindled what I would call a bit of a friendship, because back many years ago, when she was a vet tech, her company at that time put her through some training programs that I was offering, and she was there, but she's moved on with that, and she's doing what she wants to do now, which is great, which is really great. So do I think that those? I hadn't heard that liberals were told to stay home and don't vote, because I would think that get out the vote. We need you out there. But there was a story, and I was talking with a gentleman who actually is now kind of starting to investigate further, and we kind of started that investigation as well alongside of him. After, I'll give him the credit, he took the lead. But when I see something, I'll jump on it right away and say, okay, let's track this down. This lead may not go anywhere, but then again, it may go somewhere. And so he's checking it out even further now as well. There's so much cover up everywhere, and I mean that everywhere, even in healthcare, and people dying, and die with COVID, from COVID.
That was the biggest one. What was your impression? So we used to tally in Ontario, the province of Canada, we used to tally all of our COVID deaths up as one thing, but they never classified if it was death with COVID or death from COVID. So just this past winter, the chief medical officer of health said that we needed to start doing the distinction between them. What was your impression on that?
Well, I challenged that back when I was in caucus, because they would do their modeling, and they would say, and I'll give you an example, because this was very clear, because again, I remember that particular caucus meeting, I challenged him. And what the sad part is, why is it always me challenging, asking the questions? It wasn't just me, there was one other. But the rest of the caucus members, they were, I better not speak out against, because, there could be an opportunity for me down the road to be a cabinet minister. So I'm going to keep my nose clean. I'm going to be a good little boy, good little girl, and so on. Whereas to me, it's like, I don't really care. I was a government deputy speaker. I was happy doing what I was doing. And I was a veteran. And I thought, okay, I'm going to speak out. And having spoken out, I found myself saying, look, your modeling, you just said this was a year ago last October. Okay, so that would be in 2020, October 2020. They said that based on the current rate of COVID, and they said we've revised our modeling because the World Health Organization, their modeling was like so far out. They were so far off the mark. And so I hunkered down, everybody hunkered down for the first 3 months, in 2020. And then it was like, wait a minute, what's going on? So they revised their numbers and they said in October, by the middle of December of 2020, the average number of COVID cases daily will in fact be 6,500 a day. I said to them, I'm sorry, I don't believe those numbers, and I'm going to tell you why. And I would always tell them why. Mm-hmm. Now I don't know what the numbers are. Do you have the numbers for recent? But then my next question is, and it links to your comment, Brenden.
Yeah.
Do they die with COVID or from COVID? Do they have COVID or do they have Omicron? And there's a difference between the two. And we all, the three of us, know people. Sadly, we know people who have passed away, perhaps with COVID. I mean, I can get into all kinds of things that will really kind of shake the bushes up, things that they get in the hospital, drugs that they're given. I was listening to something just today. Dr. Pierre Corey, he's highly touted in the U.S., and he pointed out, he said, he was talking about ivermectin. And up here, that's bad. That's bad. No, it's not bad. But do you ever notice that the doctors up here don't talk about preventative? What are things that I can take and do? Sure, I can wash my hands, I can wear a mask, and I can keep 6 feet. Well, who came up with 6 feet? Why don't you make it 10? Why don't you make it 2? Give me a break. Or how crazy is this? You got to wear a mask when you walk into a restaurant. Of course, I haven't been in a restaurant for a while. You know why. But my point is, when people, even now, people have to wear a mask to go into a restaurant. But when you sit down, you can take your mask on. Oh, is that because then if you're carrying something, it's not going to go from table to table? To people who are actually not wearing masks either? Give me a break. Who makes up the rules?
Can I get your opinion on something here, Rick? Apparently, just a short time ago today, Ontario's top doctor, Kieran Moore, made a statement, and it seems like he's admitting that the vaccines are not working the way that they promised they would. In fact, they may not be working very well at all. And the quote that I'm seeing from CTV News is from Dr. Kieran Moore is the vaccine isn't providing significant benefit at 2 doses against the risk of transmission as compared to someone unvaccinated, Moore said. We have to reassess the value of the passports in the coming weeks and months. When we see a vaccine that doesn't provide the sterile immunity like it did provide against Delta, if it did, we have to reassess some of the public health measures we put in place, reassess whether we maintain a proof of vaccination certification process given the decreased benefit against transmission. Any thoughts on that? It seems pretty significant.
It's pretty loaded. What was that word that you used? Sterility?
I didn't use it, but he did.
Yeah. What was the context you used that in, Rick?
When we see a vaccine that doesn't provide the sterile immunity.
Stop right there.
Yeah.
Sterile immunity. And there's talk right now, when you hear about people that are being vaccinated, sterility is one of the side effects. In male as well as in female. And I don't really want to go down the avenue right now, but I'll just casually mention it, that they've proven that it's not everyone, but let's just say this: the number of spontaneous miscarriages has skyrocketed in women who are double vaxxed or triple vaxxed. The number of stillbirths far exceeds what it normally should be if in fact women are double vaxxed, triple vaxxed, whatever.
Hmm.
So again, I don't want to. I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but you know what? I mean, with vax passes, the difference between a conspiracy theory and reality. When it came to the vax passes, it was 6 months. And here
Yeah.
we are. Here we are.
Yeah.
So I'm
You.
concerned. I'm concerned actually about Kieran Moore's statement. That's a loaded statement. He's almost implying, the way I read into it, that they're going to continue this, and so on. So here's my thought. Oh boy, I've had so many thoughts on this.
Yeah.
But think about this, guys. People who are unvaxxed and they do not have the vax pass. Okay, so that means no vax pass, no concerts, no restaurants, no sporting events where you have thousands of people gathering. At least all you have to do is just look at the states, football games, in the states, basketball games. When baseball starts, baseball. Now, Ontario is holding the line because they're holding the line. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But my concern is, or I say to them, you know what? So I'm not allowed to go into and enjoy those venues like the vaccinated people are. Well, guess what? Thank you. Thank you for not allowing me to go in there. You say, well, why would you say that? Because we know that it is the vaccinated people. I don't care whether they're single vaxxed, double vaxxed, triple vaxxed, quadruple vaxxed. We know that those people are, in fact, the bigger spreaders of disease. Well, newsflash, if I'm not sick, I'm not a carrier. Yet, a lot of these people who are single, double, triple, quadruple, vaxxed, they may be asymptomatic, but they could very well be carriers. They could very well be carriers. And so therefore, by not allowing me in there, you're not exposing me to potential carriers where I could get sick. And now look at the hospitals, and you're starting to see that the vaxxed is outnumbering the unvaxxed. And it's just only going to continue to get worse. You're going to start seeing more vaxxed people in hospital or in ICU versus the unvaxxed. So, Counselor, I rest my case.
Yeah.
In fact, it seems like we are going through the world's first pandemic of the vaccinated.
Yes. Yes. Don't ever say that to a vaccinated person,
No.
because your narrative will be different from their narrative. And of
Yes.
course, but sadly, that is the case.
Mhm.
That is the case. I've often said this too. How do we stop this? Well, like I said earlier, Rick, you've been involved with mainstream media for many years prior to, and so if they're not coming to us, then I say we go to them, and we park out front of their buildings, and we do our protests there and hand them a sheet of paper. But in addition to that, maybe, because I'm sure you've talked to people as well, guys, where they've said, you know what? I took the vaccine because I thought I want to keep mom and dad, grandma and grandpa safe. I want to be safe so I don't get sick. So I took the vaccine, but I had to take 2 of them, 2 shots. Then I thought it was going to be good. And then they come up with, well, we've discovered that it's not really doing what it's supposed to do. So you're going to have to get a booster now. You need a booster. Well, the booster's not doing really what it's supposed to be doing. So you're going to need another booster. That's not a vaccine. That's not a vaccine.
No, it's not. There's been more holes in this thing since the day it came out. Like, it's absolutely hilarious that anybody took any of this stuff serious. Like, I would say to people, I was like, well, clearly this is a science experiment, and then they would go, well, how do you mean by that? And I was like, well, in Ontario, if you recall, not too long ago, they took young males. They said that they can no longer have Moderna, or was it Pfizer?
I think it was Moderna.
Moderna, okay. They said
Moderna.
Yeah.
M-U-R. Derna. Murder.
Murder. So they had stated that, oh, we can't give this to people, young males of a certain age group, and it's like that was the ticket. That was the biggest indicator that we're undergoing a giant science experiment, and it just blew my mind that this is what they wanted to put people through. It's just absolutely saddened me, like that this is what's happened to our country, and thank God for these truckers coming around and waking up the whole world. Like, absolutely.
You know, Brenden, I think you know my daughter, Brooke, and a year ago, you know, she was great with child. She was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, and this is one of the few times I can agree with the doctors, they said, you know, we're not so certain about women who are pregnant getting the vaccine. I made it very clear to my daughter, sweetheart, do not get vaccinated. You're carrying a baby. They don't know the effects it could have on your unborn, your living person inside of you. So she didn't get it. On February 14th, Valentine's Day, little Shiloh will be 1 year old. But shortly after that, and I don't have a time span, might have been a month, maybe 2 months afterwards, the doctors came out and said, you know what? Well, you know what? We've done some testing, and it's okay. It's okay for pregnant women to get the vaccine. Now we're seeing the results. So, yeah, they flip flop. You know.
Well, man, I remember, you know, watching public Zoom meetings with people from even the local health unit, and nurses and doctors on there telling women in these meetings that it was perfectly safe if you were pregnant to go ahead and get this vaccine. And then having questions like, well, where are the studies and what are the stats? And their response in those meetings was that they'd injected, enough women just through the course of trying to inoculate people against the pandemic and the past month that they felt that it was safe. And it just blew my mind. Like, they really didn't have any data. They don't have any long-term studies. Even now, really, they don't have any long-term studies, but we are seeing evidence and data coming from hospitals that isn't really being shared with the public. And I think you're aware of those kinds of numbers with regards to miscarriages. And any other further thoughts on that?
Well, I do have whistleblowers that reach out to me, Rick, and what I'm finding, but then I say, okay, but all right, do I want to take your word for it? Sure, I do, but to the whistleblower, but I need more data. I need, and I say to them, look, if it involves a family that lost a loved one, I don't need to know who that family is, but I just need to have, I need to have verifiable statistics for this. And back to your point earlier about statistics and long-term adverse effects versus midterm adverse effects versus immediate adverse effects. We know what the immediate adverse effects are. We know that. But we're starting to see now, because now it's been about a year into these vaccines, what some of the mid-range adverse effects are. And people are living, the clinical data, the clinical research is being conducted right now on people. And maybe a year from now, now we have enough clinical research for identifying long-term adverse effects. And you talk to some of the doctors, and these guys are not quacks. These guys have studied immunology, and virology. They know what they're talking about. Very scientific in their research, and there's so many peer-reviewed papers out there.
Well, speaking of stats, like I visit Worldometer every day, and I look at the stats for Canada. This is all from government data, and you can see here in the daily new cases. And I wish I could zoom in on this closer. I can't, but you can see at the beginning of this, way back in 2020, back in March of 2020, these were the numbers, and they had everybody, daily cases of like 1,000, 1,100, 1,200. They had us all locked down hard. Warm
Yep.
weather, it gets you have far fewer cases. Things were looking better. I think government officials were trying to claim that their measures were having some impact, but it's obviously seasonal. And then colder weather comes, and now we're starting to get into vaccinations, and the numbers go up. And it's all up in here. And then this huge spike in here, like at the peak of what was supposed to be the peak, we were 7,000, 8,000. At the very peak, like 9,000 cases a day. And you get into these booster shots, and you're up to 55,350 new cases. This is when people are getting, their triple shots. And it's coming down a bit now, but you're still up higher even today than you were a year ago, and higher than we were when it all first started, when there was no vaccine available. And if you go to the deaths that they're recording, and whether it's with or from, we're back to the peak. Except here, it seems to be coming back down a bit now. And it just doesn't make sense to me.
We just came out of a lockdown too. This
Right.
happened. This exact same thing happened last year. Because remember, in April of last year, we went on. The kids went on Easter break, and then they canceled school after that. All school had to be digital for the rest of the year after that. So
Yeah.
it's going to be the same thing as last year here, and that's unless we get the government to commit to ending the mandates. Like that would be.
So in your view, how I just don't see it. I don't see how the masks are working. I don't see how the vaccines are working. I don't see how anything the government has done with regard to lockdowns has worked. It doesn't seem to have worked. In fact, in some ways, it seems to have made it worse. But that being said, the Omicron doesn't seem to be as deadly as the Delta. Nothing that they're telling us seems to hold water. It just doesn't make sense.
Rick, I couldn't agree with you more. We talk about how contagious the Omicron variant is, but somebody comes down with Omicron. Oh, you've got COVID. Well, I guess you could say that if it's a variant of COVID, but it's also flu season, and a lot of people die from flu, and they end up, they get it settles in their chest. And it becomes cold, a sore throat, chest, chills, things happening at both ends. Then maybe they come down with maybe pneumonia. And when that settles in the chest, in the elderly, it's very serious. For guys like us, not so serious, but you don't take it lightly either. So there's going to be deaths. But what I'm concerned about, and I have had some whistleblowers share with me some of the things that are going on in long-term care. And I don't want to panic your listening audience, but I will say this. There was a long-term care home up in the Ajax, in the Durham region. Let's just say that.
Yeah. And
they were, at the time, administering dose number 3, booster. Okay. And when they were administering it, 4 people died that day, and 7 people were admitted to hospital. So you might say, oh, well, when their time's up, their time's up. No, I don't buy that.
No.
I think that the vaccine had a lot to do with it. And then you get a report stating that from a particular lawyer in this long-term care home, telling people that if you leak what has happened, you're going to be fired. So that's coercion as well. You're threatening me. So they tried to hush it, but I was told this by a very reliable doctor, a reputable source. And so I raised that issue, in question period with the then Minister of Long-Term Care, Rod Phillips. And I was gentle on him. I'm not so gentle on Christine Elliott. I was gentle on him, basically as an information piece. But here's the other point, Rick, Brenden. It's happening in long-term care homes throughout the province. And Brenden, I think you had mentioned earlier that they're hiding it. You know, they're hiding the numbers, and they're not letting it out.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I just had reports today that two people. This is about a week or so ago, 2 weeks ago, passed away the same day as they were administering dose number 3 locally.
Mm-hmm.
And the numbers are there, but they're not letting them out. They're not letting them out. So
I've seen one number from Dr. Roger Hodkinson today. He was on the Laura Lynn Tyler Thompson show. He had stated that in his reckoning, there's been a 40% increase in deaths in 2021 over years prior, and that's
what was the percent?
What's that?
What was the percent, Brenden? I'm sorry.
40% increase in fatalities and people dying, and he said that's a surge you don't ever see, and that was his words exactly. I was just watching it over dinner time, so I think that we're going to start seeing those numbers pouring through, and I think that's when we're going to have to be able to get investigations and get numbers on these things to combat all the political correctness that's been surrounding this and silencing people.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people have often said that there's a lot more behind the scenes to this than most people are aware.
Mm-hmm.
I call that don't get caught chasing a shiny object. In magic land, they call that sleight of hand, right? You know, over here, take a look at this hand, and the other, but you don't know what's really going on with this hand, and because your focus is on this one, not on this one. So, yeah, there's a sleight of hand going on all over the place right now. There's a lot more to this, and you would think that the powers to be, but again, one of the videos that I know you've both seen, it's on my website, by the way. It's called "Follow the Money." Follow the money. I mean, you have to think that there is something going on when, in fact, the campaign manager for the Doug Ford re-election in June is also the founding principal of a company called Rubicon out of Toronto. Rubicon is a lobbyist firm. They represent probably over 100 companies, some of which include Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. There's about 6 different pharmaceutical companies. So, yeah, you've got to wonder, you know, follow the money? Yeah, I think you should. But it goes a lot deeper than just that obvious. There's a lot more things going on. Did you know that in the United States, and I mean, this is happening in the hospitals here too, but our system is different in that in the States, the pharmaceutical companies will reimburse the hospitals if they administer a very toxic drug to people in hospital called remdesivir. It's toxic. It has a 3% death rate. So, in other words, if you had 100 people, 3% are going to die. 3% die. Well, that's not a big number, Rick. You want to be one of those 3?
No.
Not me.
No.
And in addition,
never would I want to.
20% of those people, okay, 20% of those people, in other words, 20 out of 100, those people, maybe it's 20 out of now 97, in fact, are having renal issues, you know, because it affects and bothers the kidneys and whatnot. So the big thing is don't get remdesivir in the hospitals. And I could just see a public health person say, Nichols is spreading misinformation. No. I've got studies, galore that will substantiate my claim. And it's sad that it has to go to this. And besides that, do you know what it costs to administer remdesivir?
What's
The cost of that drug? $3,000. Now, this is from the U.S. I got this, so that's probably $3,000 U.S. But you know what else they could be giving people to help them get over it? And I've got the stats and all the numbers, that will substantiate that. You ready for this?
Ready.
Ivermectin. Again, if you're really, really sick, ivermectin unfortunately isn't going to help you. You take it as a precursor, to stay healthy so you don't get it. And or if you come down, you're starting to feel sick within, say, the first 5 days, get on ivermectin as quickly as possible. And do you know what the cost of ivermectin is?
Oh, it's
For $3 or something like that, isn't it?
2 cents.
How much?
2 cents.
2 cents.
2 cents compared to $3,000. Oh, excuse me. Follow the money? What do you think? I can back all of that. I can back all of that information up. So, do you think there's something strange going on, fellas? I think there is. I really do.
I could definitely say my spidey senses have been tingling for a very long time.
It seems like money is being used to control everything, from the corporations that are supposed to enforce these vaccine mandates to medical officers of health who are, I think, in some cases just protecting their jobs and their pensions and going along and saying whatever they're told to say. Money and jobs and coercion, it's money. It's being used to control this entire thing all the way down the line, in my view. Is that a fair assessment, you think?
Oh yeah, for sure it is. And Rick, I mean, that when I left the PC caucus, not by choice, I would have been running in this next election as a PC candidate if everything had, if we didn't have to be mandated to have vaccines and so on. However, then I remained as an independent. And as you know, I am now a member of the Ontario Party. It's a new party. And I know there's some people out there saying, oh my gosh, Rick, there's the New Blue and there's Randy Hillier and his party. Well, Randy doesn't have a party. I'm sorry. But New Blue, yes. So we're trying to work together, with our party, because what we stand for is for family values. We stand for freedom, and we stand for faith. You put those three together, and you want to end up with total transparency. And we are against mandates, dead set against mandates. We want total transparency, and we will demand total transparency. And if we have to flush some nasty stuff out of the woods, with regards to pharmaceuticals and or who's doing what, and the other thing we are stating is that we want everyone who has lost their job because they were forced, they were trying to be coerced into getting the shot, and they said, no, I'm not. We want all those people to get their jobs back. That's what we want. And that's the only fair thing to do. Because who says that the company that employs, well, let me see, for example, Pure Later is an example, okay? Or Amazon, a lot of these those, I just have named a couple of delivery ones, or even some manufacturing facilities that have said, even Chrysler down in Windsor, where they said, listen, you either get vaccinated or you're done. Well, excuse me, two things. Where's my union? Are they not supporting me? What do my dues go towards? And I've told people, if your union's not supporting you, then stop paying your dues. Hit them in the pocket. They may not care because they have a cushy six-figure salary. Secondly, when you look at what's going on, it's like, who made these people doctors? They're not
Yeah.
doctors. You don't know a person's medical history. I get letters, I get phone calls from parents, mothers who are in tears. My son has a condition. He cannot get any vaccine at all because he almost died when he got such and such and such and such. He needs an exemption so that he can still live a normal life, go to school, participate in sports. But now, CPSO, College of Physicians and Surgeons, have instructed doctors, you cannot, you will not issue medical exemptions. Well, what does that do with that little boy? Or that little girl somewhere? Or that parent that desperately needs a medical exemption for whatever the reasons are?
Yep. Yep.
Where does that leave them? So there's something definitely wrong.
And that's really what the truckers are, the truckers protest is about, right? It's about the right to choose whether you get the vaccine or you don't. It's about preserving our rights. That's what this is about.
So
exactly right.
We do have Carla coming on shortly. She's our boots on the ground in Ottawa. I would like to offer you a platform to promote your website or any of your materials, and you have an election coming up. You had just stated in the spring. If you could fill the people in on that, I would love to offer you a place to speak freely.
Thank you, Brenden. I appreciate that. We're working on some things right now. I am currently actively seeking candidates, but we're going to handpick rather than have these elections and so on, which seem to cause more problems than not. And we're going to be handpicking in certain ridings as well, because we're a new party, we're a young party. We don't have the funds right now. Once we start getting people in place, then we will in fact start doing more fundraising to help them out. But we're going to be selective. We're hoping out of 124 seats in the province, if we can get maybe 75 good quality candidates, I think we have a shot. Maybe not a forming government, but we want to be a good, sound, solid opposition, so that if in fact Doug Ford does get reelected, but he ends up with a minority government, we're hoping that us and maybe one of the other parties, blue maybe, we could form a coalition, and then we could, you want us to help you vote Ford to pass this particular legislation, here's what you need to do, and we negotiate every one of those bills. It'll be a tough road for them, but you know what? We're in for the long haul.
It seems like you're facing an election that is unusual, to say the least, very unique, because the conservative side, the more conservative side, if you will, is very fragmented, divided into all these different parties now. Do you think that might pave the way for the Liberals to find a way back to power?
Well, that thought has crossed my mind, Rick, but I don't think that the province is ready for, more of Win Del Duca, as I would call it, because Del Duca is now the leader of the Liberal Party, although he doesn't have a seat. And he doesn't have a seat by choice. He says, no, I'm not going to take a seat away from somebody. And I think they're down to about 6 now, because one of their members actually resigned and ran federally and actually won, Michael Cotto. And I think he's in Don Valley East, I think, something like that. But anyway, I don't think people are ready for more of the former same 15 years of Liberal mismanagement. Mm-hmm. And I just don't think, and I say this very respectfully, but I just don't think that the province is ready for orange. I just don't think so. From what I've seen in my almost 4 years there in the legislature, there are some good people in the NDP. I will give them credit for that. But there's also a lot of activists as well. And you can tell that by the way their tonality in the legislature, how they show disrespect in the legislature, and that just their actions. And it's like we don't
they had pushed candidates that were dead set against poppies and stuff like that. And if you ask me, that's political suicide. Like, absolutely.
Oh gosh, there was the brother of the current leader of the federal NDP, Gurtan Singh. Oh my gosh, we found a picture of him holding up a sign that was very specific and very explicit and very derogatory towards police. Trust me, and it's like, really and truly, and he gets elected. You really want that kind of a person to be elected? You're electing activists. Those people try to bring government down.
Every time.
Every time, guys. Every time. So,
aren't you afraid? I'm afraid that if the Liberals or the NDP get more power in Ontario, that all of these mandates, it's the people on the left side of the political spectrum with a more collectivist mindset. They're the ones who are, more strongly supportive of all of these measures, these restrictions.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. They want everybody wearing masks so they can continually breathe in their own exhale, which those masks are and they've done test after test. They are loaded with bacteria, but they want you breathing in that bacteria so that bacteria gets into your lungs, so you get sick. They want everybody to be vaccinated, although I question how many of them are really vaccinated. They want little kids to be vaccinated. I have seen where several school boards, and I think that the Lambton Kent District School Board is one of them, but I know that the Greater Essex County District School Board, they brought forward a motion. Both may have brought forward a motion through the school board trustees stating that this COVID vaccine, which is not a vaccine, we know that, should be mandatory for very small children, less than 5 years old. You know how you get your inoculation shots at different phases and months and then years, so on. They want those kids getting that. That'll kill them. But I say to them, excuse me, are you a doctor? What the heck do you know? Keep your nose out of it. Stop playing politics. Because now you're messing with lives. And when that happens, boy, I'll tell you, I'm starting to get a little worked up now again. But, I get worked up about it because it affects my constituents, but not just constituents locally in the Chatham-Kent-Leamington area, but across this great country of ours. And trust me, I get the emails, I get the phone calls. I'm even getting calls from the United States because they've heard about me and the things that I'm doing. So it's like, wow.
No, you're absolutely right. We're going to be at a turning point. The truckers rolling in on Ottawa is basically, I guess you could say, Justin Trudeau has in fact united the country, but it wasn't him. It was the truckers that he pissed off. So I think we're going to see some turnarounds here, but it just seems so weird to be in such an unknown state. Like, nobody knows what tomorrow looks like for the next while. Nobody. Yeah. And that is also another stressor on society, that nobody knows what tomorrow is going to be like.
So
we used to all have a good understanding of like what tomorrow was going to look like, but now I don't think anybody knows. And
so there's a big rally for sure on the 5th at Queen's Park.
That's on the 5th. That's Saturday.
Yeah, okay. That's this weekend. I guess my question is, will you be going up there to see these truckers, meet with the truckers, or at any point along the route, or even truckers locally? And what's your message to truckers as we kind of get ready to wrap this conversation up tonight?
No pun intended. Actually, pun intended. These truckers are in it for the long haul.
Yep.
That they are. And if I can support them any way I can right now, because I've got other commitments down here that I haven't been able to kind of get to Ottawa and so on. But you know what? I'll have to take a look at my schedule and see what's going on for this weekend. I need more details as to where they're going to be, what time they're going to be, and is there an opportunity to address these truckers? I'd be more than happy to be there if that's the case.
Okay. Well, I'm not organizing it, so they can't come and throw me in jail for that. Although I think there might be somebody knocking on my door. I'm not sure. But yeah, the information is out there. If we have some, we'll see if we can forward that to you.
Thanks, Rick. I appreciate that. Brenden, thank you so much again for the invite, guys. I know
Thanks for coming on.
I know it took longer than a half an hour that you and I had talked about, but
no, I'll tell you, we've been tens of thousands of people have been watching these streams, and I only see a portion of the numbers on my screen here. But we have a record audience tonight, and they've been riveted to everything you've been talking about. So we greatly appreciate you joining us. The information is invaluable.
Yes.
The perspective is extremely valuable. People are getting information here because of people like you that they are not getting through the so-called mainstream media.
Absolutely right. And thank goodness, thank the good Lord for people like yourselves, guys, who are saying, you know what, we're going to rise above all this. We'll go underground. We'll do what we have to do. And people are looking hard and fast, for truth. That's what they're looking for. And they know that they're not getting it from mainstream media. Shame on them. All they want to do is take a handout, from Trudeau, be bought off. They've sold their souls to the devil in a sense. And sadly, they also think that, well, if they can, whatever they're doing, they can sell more advertising, whether it be on TV or in print. People, and that way they can sell more papers. Well, they should get over that. I'm very disgusted with that. But kudos to you fellas. Thank you so much for everything that you've done and continue to do. And I look forward, Brenden, to being, and Rick on your podcast again. Just to reiterate, the Ontario Party is a true conservative party, built on true conservative values and principles. I know that because I wrote a lot of it. So I'm helping them with this as well. And that's going to be our platform going in. And I think that people are needing something fresh. They need something exciting. But the biggest thing that people need right now is hope. Guys, through your podcast, you're giving people hope. And that's part of myself too. My venues, I want to give people hope.
And that you're doing, and great respect to you. A huge respect for Derek Sloan, the leader of your party. You've both been fighting a huge uphill battle from the beginning of this thing, and I really do respect that greatly.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Brenden. I look forward to another opportunity, guys.
Absolutely. I will be looking to probably. Well, I'll definitely want to talk to you around election time, so we'll connect then.
Well, maybe even sooner too. Maybe even sooner too. I'll give you an update on my status. How about that?
Yeah, there we go.
All right. We'll check back in with you, Rick. As these truckers continue doing what they're doing, and best of luck in that upcoming election. It's going to be very, very interesting, and I think you're the guy to beat. So.
Well, Rick, I appreciate that. I'm going to need a lot of volunteers. The sad part is, when we built up, I tease people. I say, my last name is Nichols, not Gold. Yeah. And therefore, I always, my dad used to have a saying. He used to call on these corner stores back in the day. Remember when the variety stores and so on, the corner stores, and he used to haul a trailer and he'd sell his goods. And the saying on the back of his trailer was, save pennies, make dollars with nickels. And it's catchy. It's really catchy.
Yeah, it is.
But the sad part is right now, like with the riding association, we got to form a new riding association. We're looking for volunteers for that, and we're starting out with a big fat zero in our bank account because everything I had under the PC Riding Association has now gone to the other guy, running in the upcoming election. So that's just the way it goes. But who was it that said we shall overcome? And we will. And we will, guys. Thanks again, fellas. I appreciate it. Thank you, listening audience. I've seen some of your comments, wonderful comments as well. So thank you to my show hosts. Let's just keep those cards and letters coming, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
All the best, eh? We'll talk to you soon.
Gentlemen,
thanks,
thank
Rick.
you so much. Signing off. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Rick Nichols, independent, member of provincial parliament for Chatham-Kent-Leamington, formerly with the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario, kicked out of caucus, kicked out of the party by Premier Doug Ford because he would not take the jab.
That is right. So what a journey for him, eh? Like I could not imagine. I did do an interview with him earlier, and I believe I labeled that podcast "Courage" because what he did was absolute bravery in my mind. Like just rewatching in my mind, I saw that press conference he gave saying that I'm going to decide to not go ahead and do this. And then Doug Ford kicked him out like an hour later. So hats off to him. He's not alone in his position with where he's at with that. So many people have lost their jobs or have the media tried to slander their credibility and that sort of thing, or reputations, if you will. But definitely him doing it publicly like that was something to note for sure.
Yeah, well, he has powerful things to say. He has data to back up what he's saying. A lot of people may disagree with him. It certainly runs counter to the mainstream media narrative, but it's information that I think people need to hear, deserve to hear, and people can draw their own conclusions because people are smart. And when you give them all of the information on all sides, they generally are able to make well-informed, good decisions for themselves and for their families. Now, you mentioned a news conference, and speaking of news conferences, the truckers held another news conference today. I'd like to bring that up and share that with you. We're going to run some of that for you as soon as I get it queued up here. And we're going to let a fair bit of this run uncensored, unfiltered, unedited.
We'll skip the French part though.
Yeah,
but we should just let everybody know who all these people are.
Yeah.
That in the far right hand corner, that lady there is Tamara Litch. She is the main GoFundMe organizer, and this is the second press conference that she has delivered. As everybody knows, we had discussed yesterday the GoFundMe with over $10 million donated by just regular working people, regular people in general, who in support of the truckers and what they're doing to get rid of all vaccine mandates and all COVID mandates, has now frozen, and so they're dealing with issues with that in particular. So there's so much insight to gain here, and we'll listen in while we wait for Carla to get on. And Carla will be reporting live from Ottawa in a few moments' time. And she has quite a few stories to share about today, so you're not going to want to miss it. Hang tight.
Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. My name is Keith Wilson. I'm a lawyer with the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. As some of you may know, there was an announcement earlier today that the Justice Center and a team of lawyers are here on the ground in Ottawa to assist the truckers and the Freedom Convoy 2022 with whatever legal needs they might have. What we're going to do today in this brief press conference is you're going to hear from Tamara Leach, who we all know is the spark that lit this fire and the leader of this organization. You're also going to hear from Joanie Pelche, who is going to summarize in French what Tamara says. And then Danny Bulford, former RCMP officer, who assists the organizers with security and liaison with the police, will speak and update you on some of those things. At the end, there will only be questions to me, and those questions will be related, if you have any, to the situation with GoFundMe, and I can answer those questions. So with that, I should also note that with Tamara is Chris Barber, one of the key leaders of the Freedom Convoy 2022. So with that, I'd ask Tamara to come forward and make her statement. Thank you.
Thank you. I always have this problem with microphones, sorry. Thank you very much for being here today. We are here out of love for our families, our communities, and our nation. These past 2 years, the COVID mandates have divided us. This protest began because of the federal government's restrictions on trucker freedoms. Our movement has grown in Canada and across the world because common people are tired of the mandates and restrictions in their own lives. Our movement has grown in Canada and across the world because common people are tired of the mandates and restrictions in their lives that now seem to be doing more harm than good. As of today, Sweden, Denmark, UK, Norway, Finland, Ireland, and Switzerland have removed all COVID mandates and restrictions. We are therefore calling on all levels of government in Canada to end all COVID mandates and restrictions. We will continue our protest until we see a clear plan for their elimination. Premier Scott Moe of Saskatchewan has taken leadership in Canada in ending restrictions and mandates in that province. Hopefully, these words will turn into long-lasting action. So far, no one from the federal, provincial, or municipal government has spoken directly with us. Instead, they are using you, the media, to portray us as racists, misogynists, and even terrorists. As a woman with Métis heritage, a mother, and a grandmother, I am offended. The reality is that members of this freedom movement are average, peace-loving, and law-abiding citizens from all walks of life who are fed up with being disrespected and bullied by our government. We continue to see additional Canadians coming to Ottawa every day for peaceful demonstrations. We want to thank the hundreds of residents of Ottawa who have stepped forward to show their support, providing accommodations, food, and just plain friendship to members of our convoy. This love of community is what Canada is all about. Let me assure the people of Ottawa that we have no intent to stay one day longer than necessary. Our departure will be based on the Prime Minister doing what is right, ending all mandates and restrictions on our freedoms. We also want to thank the thousands of people who have so generously donated to this protest to GoFundMe. Over the last 3 days, our accountants and lawyers have been working hard to deal with the legal details. This morning, our lawyers sent GoFundMe all the details that they have asked for. I am confident that GoFundMe now has all the information needed to immediately lift the suspension they put on our campaign. I am hoping to hear from GoFundMe soon so that we can get the money to the truckers and keep our protest for freedom moving forward. I will be providing regular updates. I want to thank all Canadians from the bottom of my heart for our quest to restore our freedoms. Thank you.
Bonjour à tous, merci d'être présents.
So while she provides the French translation, Brenden, do you want to comment on what she just had to say?
I think it's very powerful what they're doing. They've been put in a pickle, I think, with this GoFundMe thing. I think the pressure on GoFundMe has probably been huge, not only from the media, but from the government, who has probably been harassing GoFundMe like day and night about it. I believe when they said that they had froze the GoFundMe before, sometime last week, that it was a total lie, because that's what they said in the last press conference. So I'm hoping that they keep the same message going forward, and it's good to let the people of Ottawa know that we've all been put into this position by the government, and we really need them to back off now more than ever.
Well, it's been pretty clear for the last few days that one of the strategies government is trying to use is to go after that GoFundMe money, either by having it frozen in some way or through fines and holding the truckers responsible for cleanup and policing costs in Ottawa at a rate of that the municipal officials in Ottawa have identified as $800,000 a day.
I think it's $1 million now.
Are they up to $1 million? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think 800,000 was actually just the cost of policing that they were citing, but how accurate that is, I don't know. It's I don't know that they have gone after other protesters in that way, but when you're dealing with a modern form of warfare, going after the money is one of the key tools in the toolbox for government.
If the GoFundMe money goes, this whole thing falls apart, I would wager.
I would disagree.
You
because,
think?
Yeah, I don't think this is going away because, as I said earlier, this protest is not your regular kind of protest.
Of course
This
not,
thing, this thing started as a grassroots organic thing, and it's continuing to grow as a grassroots organic thing. You're not seeing protests in Australia like we saw when we interviewed that Australian truck driver a couple of nights ago.
Yes.
That's not happening because there's some big organization behind it. It's happening because regular, everyday people from all walks of life are just fed up. And it's happening across the country. That's why you're seeing this happening at the Alberta-Montana border. Now you're seeing another convoy getting ready to head to Toronto and Queen's Park. You're seeing it happen across the country. You're seeing people come out by the thousands to support these truckers. Let's tune back in now and see what else has to be said here.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Bulford. I am a recently resigned member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police after 15 years of service. I resigned from the RCMP over the mandate after publicly speaking opposing the mandates. I am currently working with the Adopt a Trucker Volunteer Coordination Center in support of the Freedom Convoy 2022. I have extensive experience in protective operations for large-scale events.
Looks like we have temporarily lost Rick Walker. I'm sure he'll be right back. Oh, there you go.
I'm back. Yeah, internet glitch there, folks. Just give me a moment. I'll bring that right back up. I do apologize.
Because
So it stopped playing, I think, right around.
safe
Yeah.
of the
If you want to start his chat over or his speech over.
is of paramount concern to ensure emergency vehicle access and routes at all times. My primary concern is individuals or groups with potential to deliberately instigate conflict with the freedom in order to discredit.
Here, let's let it buffer just a little bit,
Seems-
perhaps.
In the media and social media about people associated to the Freedom Convoy 2022 being arrested and charged. I have it on very reliable information that people from the movement were not associated, and property damage, and just an assault this morning.
Rick, we're
committed
having
by,
strict.
and reported by a trucker and volunteer security personnel, which was reported to the police and handled by the Ottawa Police Service.
Oh, we have lost Rick Walker again.
What I have seen with my own eyes on the odd break that I get,
Rick, can you
are
come in, Rick?
truckers and supporters of the movement, the homeless,
I'm
for
here.
free.
Here, let's let the
right on
video
Wellington,
buffer for a
filling their
minute.
backpacks. Truckers taking a whole trailer, maintaining
Yep.
cleanliness of city streets,
For-
including picking up discarded masks all over the ground that we've come to see. Centralized garbage collection, shoveling snow,
Do you
at
have
the
me,
War
Brenden?
Yeah,
Memorial
I do.
and
I hear the video
Terry
playing in the
Fox
background
statue.
still,
decorating
Um,
those two locations and providing security for those
Yes.
two
but
locations.
I've missed much of it.
I've even seen
I'm
people
not
have
sure if that would
tents
be the
set
same
up
for
right
other
by
people.
Terry
Let's-
Fox in order to
I'll
protect
tell you
that
what. Why don't
statue.
we? I'm going to remove this, and I'm back. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I think we've lost Rick Walker again. I'm terribly sorry for this, folks at home. We typically don't have this problem where this comes up. Some So I guess I can address some of the comments. C. Roy at 8:18 p.m. said, "What's going on in Sarnia?" I did receive word that there was a number of tractors that are doing a slow roll or something of that nature. I don't have too much information on what's happening in Sarnia in that regard, so we're going to have to wait and see what their intentions are, but I did receive an image of a whole bunch of tractors that were convoying up in Sarnia, Ontario, Canada. So what's going to happen with that? I'm not sure. It's just going to be a matter of time waiting for information to come in. Yeah, it very well could be. YouTube is striking again, but we'll have to wait and see. Welcome back.
I'm here. I've had to switch computers, strangely enough, but I'm here. So let's continue. I've pulled out of here. Carla is joining us. So let's bring Carla in. Hi, Carla. Welcome back.
How are you?
Great. We will try to bring back the rest of that news conference later, but we can't keep Carla waiting because she's so awesome and she has so much awesome stuff to share with us because she was down there collecting all kinds of awesome video and interviews and
Do you guys see my stuff
checking
today?
everything out today and at Parliament Hill.
Yeah, so I mean, today was probably the least busy day down there, but it was eventful. I did get a couple of interviews. I spoke to some tow truck drivers. I ran into someone who was on the other side of this that doesn't support the convoy. I managed to get some footage of her kind of tearing up a little bit there, and it ended with her actually assaulting me. And just seeing the response of the people who are on the convoy, right? Like all of us protesters, we ended up these three gentlemen diffused her and she went on her way. So I don't know, did you guys see the clip?
I did. I wanted to share the clip actually, and
Please
maybe
do.
perhaps
And then I can
perhaps
speak
now.
to it. I can
Yeah,
explain it.
exactly. Rick, are you okay with that?
Yeah, sure. If you have the clip, let's bring it up.
Yeah, here, hold up. So I am hoping the audio is going to work on that. I'm just going to cue it up right now.
Okay.
So I'll just set the tone. So what was happening is I was walking up Metcalfe Street, up towards Wellington Street by myself, just walking up to the hill, and this girl kind of walked past me. She brushed against my shoulder. I didn't think anything of it. And then she got a couple of feet ahead of me and turned around and called me an F and B, said that, you people need to get out of here. All you want is you want to kill everyone with COVID. You want everyone to die of COVID, you Nazis. And then she threw a snowball at me, which was hilariously a Canadian. Really, my response was just to smile at her. I didn't say a word. I barely even smile. I just looked at her. I just no response, right? Because I think when someone is like that, she was walking ahead of me, it was better to just not respond. But then she was kind of walking with a bit of aggression, looking like, hitting at things. And I thought, well, I'm just going to record this chick because, as we are going to have we're going to have aggressors there. And I would like to get them on video, because we do want the truth about what's going on, right? Because everyone's watching the media. They're seeing exactly how they're painting us as, violent and vile and destructive and disrespectful. So I needed to make sure I had that. So that's where it picked up, is where I was following behind her as we were approaching the hill.
So you've just been hit by a snowball, and she wasn't
even a good snowball thrower, but it is what it is. I mean, I didn't care. That was Canadian. I don't care.
All right, I'm gonna roll it.
Threw a snowball at me, called me a fucking bitch, and said that I don't care if people die of COVID. And then she called me a Nazi. I'll just show you who she is.
The real French minority. That they've sent here. Thank you, Justin Trudeau. Not a single person responded poorly to her. She's kicked a coffee, she kicked a person, threw a snowball at me, and everyone has done nothing but smile at her. Look at this! Woo! Look at this! Somebody should come and stop her. Where's the police now? No police presence at this time down there. These are the people that are destroyed. Oh, she's such a Canadian. Look at this. Wow. Spreading my joy. I'm gonna keep spreading love. But I want everyone to see who is really here. This is not the protesters, people. Be kind. Be Canadian. So this guy and if you look in front of this girl, everybody's shoveling. Community. Wow, what a compare and contrast, guys. This is really something. fuck yourself. That's what she said back. I need to say that to her. So she came to me, grabbed me by the hat, pulled my hair. 3 guys from the protest pulled her off of me. She fell onto the ground. Her phone fell out of her pocket, interestingly enough, and she's walking way down that street. Anyway, did you hear all the people? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you kidding me? I'm okay. I'm more than okay. I actually am happy that that happened. She 100% has proven that we are not the terrorists, that we are not the violent, that we are just nothing but love. Like, I mean, did you see the way those guys handled her? They had to stop her, but everyone was kind to her in the midst of her throwing things and kicking over things, ripping.
So that is quite an altercation. So let's break it down from the beginning, perhaps. So first off, you're walking behind her, and then
I was
starts
in front of her, and she went ahead of me.
Yeah.
And then that's when she started yelling out, you're an effing B. You guys are trying to kill everybody with COVID. What's wrong with you people? You're a bunch of Nazis.
You people.
Yeah, meaning all of us, right? Well, it's, that's who we are. That's who Justin Trudeau speaks of us, right? How do we tolerate them? Do we tolerate those people? So we are those people.
Mm-hmm. 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 So you were kind of trailing her a little bit there. She goes up to like a donut stand or something, and she starts harassing this woman with probably her kid.
Yeah.
Thank God the guy with the coffee was there, though, because otherwise she looked like she had her sights set on the
kid.
The kid, yeah. Like I would rather a full-grown man be attacked by somebody like that than
that kid.
Yeah, like.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is I feel sorry for her.
Yeah. So if you listen to the rest of the clip. I said, I actually feel sorry for her that Justin Trudeau has created this. I mean, I have nothing but empathy for her. I'm not angry with her. For 2 years, we've been going through all of this with Justin Trudeau, this division. I mean, I think it's been the full 2 years. He's been trying to divide the society. He's talking that we have all this hate speech, but in essence, he's creating the hate speech. He's creating the rage. He's creating the anger on top of the lockdowns, on top of everything. Mental health is on the rise. I mean, people have had enough. And with Justin Trudeau creating this division and everything going against us, she's got to have somewhere to fire her anger. So it's towards us, I don't know if this girl's mentally ill. I mean, I think every single person in Canada and perhaps worldwide have a certain level of mental illness over this. I mean, we're not mentally healthy right now. It's not normal to lock people down. And to do to restrict us the way that we have. So whether you're on Justin Trudeau's team or, in our society, or if you're part of the others, it's still difficult either side, either way you're on there. So I think that, it's just people, 2 years is a long time. There's a boiling point. So I actually have empathy for her. It's the way that she can deal with it. It's all that she knows, right? It's what she's been taught. It's what she's been programmed to do.
Yeah. Well, she's been programmed to be intolerant towards people.
Intolerant. Perfect.
Yeah. And that's just like what Justin Trudeau has been saying, like this whole time. These people, do we tolerate them?
It's a glass of wine tonight, guys. It was a great day on the hill.
Beautiful.
It's also because of all the fear that has been injected into people.
Right. And what do we do when we're fearful? We're going to lash out to protect ourselves, right?
Yes.
Well,
we're the enemy to her.
So I know you can't see without your glasses there, Carla, but that last comment said from Frank Frivolous, too many boosters.
That's a whole other show, guys. My thoughts and opinions on that. That's a whole other show of what it does to people's cognition.
Oh yeah, we just had Rick Nichols on. He kind of gave quite a bit of info on that. That was really great to have Rick Nichols on. So let's break it down further, because I don't think that we even got to the best part yet. So she goes up to that truck, does something very unpatriotic, rips the Canadian flag off of it, and then goes up to you after that. And
Well,
then
she was approaching. You notice the people that were shoveling the road, and truly, guys, that's the big part today too. With the snowfall that we had, there were shovels everywhere, all along the whole, I guess, Convoy site, and people were picking them up. But like just protesters and volunteers were just picking them up. The sidewalks were clean, the roads were clean, and they were done by hand with these shovels. So there was a group of them shoveling, and she kind of, if you notice, she kind of busted through them, and was angry. And then of course I said, "We just love you." And then she, turned around, realized that I was taping her, and then came at me. She was going for my camera, but she ripped off my hat and was going for my camera. And of course I tucked it away. I mean, it was still on, but I tucked it away, and she got a good handful of my hair. I mean, and she's pulling it pretty hard. I mean, it wasn't, I told my husband, I said, I said, no, it's fine. I said, she didn't pull it any harder than my mom did when I was a kid brushing my hair. But truly, she had a good hold on my hair. And, 3 or 4 of these guys just kind of got her hand off my hair. And then she slipped and fell to the ground. And her phone must have fallen out, because when she was, they talked to her, and they just said, "Look, you can't do this. You can't be here." And I couldn't get that on tape because my phone was all discombobulated and all of my stuff was everywhere. And so she, so then at that point, she decided just to leave. And it was very strange that she just all of a sudden popped up and started to walk down the hill. I thought that was very weird. There was no real exchange from her after that. And I picked her phone up off the ground. I'm like, I think it's that girl's phone. And so I just shoved it in my coat pocket and thought, well, I'm going to give this to a cop, because obviously I don't want her phone. And I do want her to get her phone back. I mean, she does deserve that. And so, sometimes it's a case of turning the other cheek, right?
I think that there's something to say about that.
Brenden, a couple of people are asking if you can replay that clip, because they're just rejoining us after the internet stuff. So people have perspective. Would you mind recuing that a bit? Sorry, I didn't mean to.
That was actually the first time I really watched it. So
you were right there.
I was a little.
Here, hold up. Let me see. I gotta
singing
find
about
it again.
joy. I gotta remember that I'm actually live and people are actually listening to me. And it's weird because my voice is so much louder because I'm closer to the microphone. My husband's bringing me an external mic to use for the remainder of my time here, thankfully.
Beautiful. Just a moment here. Gonna have it up in 2 minutes.
And Braun James says she is not mentally ill. She is angry. And, that's exactly what Justin Trudeau has been harnessing, is all these negative emotions in people. I think our Liberal government has been manipulating people. They've been using psychographic data to help them craft carefully worded language, to push people's buttons to get exactly this kind of response out of people in order to get them to vote for them, by scapegoating certain groups of people and getting them to support these mandates and lockdowns and all of these other things that they want.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, I mean, if any of us, including the people that are listening, I mean, if we were on the other side of this, how do I know I wouldn't? I mean, I personally, I don't want to believe that I would respond in that way, but I don't know. I don't know how it would be if I was programmed that way, because the key word is that he's been programming people.
Let's bring up the can we bring up the audio here again and watch this, because
Oh goody, the audio again.
All right.
That they've sent here. Thank you, Justin Trudeau. Not a single person responded poorly to her. She's kicked a coffee, she kicked a person, threw a snowball at me, and everyone has done nothing but smile at her. Look at this! Woo! Look at this! Somebody should come and stop her. Where's the police now? These are the people that are destroying. Oh, she's such a Canadian. Look at this. Wow. Spreading my joy. I'm gonna keep spreading love. But I want everyone to see who is really here. This is not the protesters, people. Be kind. Be Canadian. And if you look in front of this girl, everybody's shoveling. Community. Wow, what a compare and contrast, guys. This is really something. This guy's not going great. Love you! We love you! Go fuck yourself. I didn't say that. You said that back. So she came to me, grabbed me by the hat, pulled my hair. 3 guys from the protest pulled her off of me. She fell onto the ground. Her phone fell out of her pocket, interestingly enough, and she's walking way down that street. Anyway, do you hear all the people? Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you kidding me? I'm okay. I'm more than okay. I actually am happy that that happened. She 100% has proven that we are not the terrorists, that we are not the violent, that we are just nothing but love. Like, I mean, did you see the way those guys handled her? They had to stop her, but everyone was kind to her in the midst of her throwing things and kicking over things, ripping flags down, pulling my hair because she didn't like my hat apparently. I'm still free. I'm okay. I am actually freer than that girl because I am filled with the love of this movement. Wow. I'm more than okay. What was weird though is, did you notice there were no police anywhere during any of that? I wonder if CBC News or City TV News saw that footage. Maybe they'd like to. I doubt they'd play it. I'm sure they'd spin it in the wrong way. I do have her ID because her phone fell out. I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna give it to the police. Do I want to charge her? Nah, she doesn't know any better. She's fueled with hate because Justin Trudeau promotes hate. She's probably a great person, but 2 years of being programmed to hate, she doesn't know any better. Mental health is on the rise. Man, in the name of Jesus, I just pray peace over that girl. I pray that she is, that something great happens to her today. Lord, would you just protect her and be with her and fill her with your love. In Jesus' name. And I still don't see any cops. I mean, those aren't real. Well, I mean, I don't know if they're real cops, but they are, they look after the buildings, their security. But I don't see any police. Weird. It's very weird that there's no police today. Today might be the day, guys. Today might be the day where all of the aggressors are coming. Less police presence. I didn't even notice that earlier. Less police presence. One aggressor already, and it's not even 11 o'clock. Trying to destroy, pulling flags off of trucks, kicking over the I don't know what they're called, pylons or whatever those things are. Kicking coffees out of people's hands, grabbing my hair. Wow. It's a great day to be in Ottawa. I'll keep you guys caught up on what's happening. Take care. Remember, be kind, be Canadian.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just it was just weird. And that was like at that moment when I looked around and I was like, where are these groups of police? I mean, anyone who's seen any of the footage that I've been taking, there's these little mini convoys of police officers from different cities everywhere on the hill, and they're there. I mean, I'm usually on the hill 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's covered. And today was the only day and the first day that I've not seen police officers. And I really wanted to get this phone to the police, and there was no one that I could find. I could go down the side streets where they were directing traffic. Mm-hmm. And I was meeting someone at 11 o'clock, and this was around 11. So I thought, well, I'll just meet this person, and then I'll, go back and give that phone to the police. So I did a little report. I told him I didn't want to charge her, just try and get her phone to her.
So how long did it take you to find a police officer after all the altercation there?
Well, like I said, that happened roughly around 10:30. And so I met up with my friends, and we were meeting, Marilyn Gladue. So she was in town. So she's our Sarnia-Lambton MP, progressive conservative MP. And she's also a personal friend. So we were just kind of meeting up with her just to say a little hello, and so I didn't want to miss that. And so we, I guess maybe a little after 11, so probably half an hour. It wasn't hard to find a police officer. It's just that they weren't visible. I knew that if I walked down into one of the side streets, like 3 or 4 blocks, I'd find a police officer. And that's exactly what I did, because they were directing traffic. Mm-hmm. So I did speak to one of the parliament security guards, and, kind of told him what happened. He said, yeah, I can't do anything about it. It has to be the police. And so that's why I went and found one. He said, find one that's in a car, because they have a computer where they can actually type up a report. So I said, okay. Because I kind of wanted a report just on the off chance that the media says that there was some kind of an altercation in the morning, and I wanted to make sure that I had made my statement to the police, but I wanted to make it really clear to the police that I absolutely don't want to charge her with anything. I just want her to get her phone back.
Yeah, she looks young, and I mean, she's probably very,
very
angry, and she's been programmed. So, I mean, I think you did the right thing in that situation and just backed off. She clearly has problems. I mean, if she didn't hurt you, who is it that she did hurt? She probably could have hurt. At least she didn't go after that kid. Like, that was the worrying part.
That's when I was losing it. At that point, I was pretty scared.
Yeah. And the mom clearly, or the guardian of the kid, was clearly like, you need to back off. That's my kid. Like, what's the matter with you?
Mm-hmm. And I couldn't hear her because the trucks were going, so I don't know what she was yelling something at the woman, and she was saying something to the man. And the man that she kicked the coffee out of his hands, he's been there this whole time. Him and his daughter, they set up a table in front of that one truck, and they've been giving food to anyone that walks by. They've been doing this nonstop. His father and daughter duo, right?
Yeah.
And his exchange was kind because he was smiling. His daughter is probably, I don't know, young teenager. She was a little afraid. She kind of, moved off to the side. I went and spoke to them after this whole thing, like about an hour later. And I just said, hey guys, like, I'm really sorry that happened to you. And I said, I was the person recording. And they said, yeah, I heard you got hit. And I said, I didn't get hit. I said, she pulled my hair up the road. And they said, yeah, some of the truckers came and told me about it. So,
but yeah. I mean, you reap what you sow. She didn't have her phone on her anymore, so I mean, there's intended consequences and unintended consequences in everything you do. So in this case, the unintended consequences losing her phone. So I mean,
well, I just thought the irony was she came after my phone. Mine was still in my hand, but hers was on the ground.
At least you gave it back, though. I mean,
and she is obviously younger. I mean, she was wearing a black mask, so I couldn't see her face, right? She had And but her phone's young because she's got like little cartoon stickers all over her phone case, so she's pretty young. Like, I don't know. She's somewhere between, I don't know, 18 to 25 anyway.
Yes. I was looking at hotels today in Ottawa. It looks like they're pretty booked solid.
They are.
Some more people coming this weekend then.
They're starting to roll in even today. Like I noticed this evening when we came back to our hotel, people were starting to come in. But, because I kind of go back and forth. And so every time I'd come back to the hotel, I'd see people checking in. They were saying in one of the Convoy groups that they're expecting 4 million additional people to come.
I can't find it.
How many?
4 million.
Just to Ottawa?
Yes. That's not, they didn't say trucks. They just said 4 million people. And I would believe it because the hotels are booked. Like I did a few interviews today and some people were on camera and some were I was just talking with them. And there's three guys in a pickup truck that, and it's got the logo of a tow truck company on it. So they own a tow truck company and they've got their pickup truck sitting there. I did an interview with them. And there are 4 of them, sorry. And then there's a trucker in his truck right next to them. And the 4 of them are friends. And so they've been kind of spelling one another off. So they've had trouble getting a hotel. So they have one hotel room and 2 guys go sleep in the hotel at night. And then the other 2 sleep in the car. And then they flip-flop the next night. So this is what they're doing. And they said that they tried to get a hotel rooms for the weekend as people would be checking out. And they said they couldn't get anything. But one thing that was interesting that they said, and of course, keep in mind, I can't really verify this, but they said that they tried to get something at the Delta, and then they found out that they believe that the government booked every room in the Delta hotel so that protesters couldn't book it. So he went, and so one of the guys went down to the Delta and went into their parking garage, and their hotel was apparently booked solid. There wasn't a single car parked in their garage. He's got video footage of it. So, and I did put that on one of my lives. And so one of my viewers actually called the Delta and questioned them on that. And the Delta denied it. But I mean, so who's to say? I mean, it could be true. It might not be true. Like, I'm not going to say that it's golden because I didn't see it for myself. Right.
Yeah.
Adam Beans points out that Ottawa has a population of about 1 million people and says 50,000 people alone would be a lot. And 4 million, I can't imagine that, but who knows?
Like a lot to me. Like, let's even think, 4 million is like a good portion of Toronto.
Or more. It's like more than Toronto. The whole, no, I can't imagine that. 100,000 would be, that was like Woodstock, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, they've been.
Or actually, Woodstock was like 500,000 or something, right? 500,000.
Before my time.
By the time we got to Woodstock, we were 500,000 strong.
Don't even get me started on Woodstock. Have you guys been watching the people from Spotify that are, kind of challenging Spotify saying, get rid of Joe Rogan or I'm pulling out? They're all from Woodstock. We have Neil Young, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, and I want to keep saying Joan Baez, but it's Joni Mitchell. So those, all Mitchell. 3 of them were in Woodstock, and I find it really interesting that why those people?
Oh,
because they're left-wing collectivists who used to be hippies but became yuppies and then sellouts, and so now they're part of the corporatocracy.
That's a perfect answer.
That's okay. If you support Neil Young, you support a homophobe. He's on record saying some pretty bad stuff.
Is he really?
Oh, big time, yep. I'm not even going to repeat it on this show. You're going to have to look it up
yourself. So I'm singing with Neil Young then. Play Neil Young all the time. Fond memories. I'm done with that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'll still listen to his music because, I'll keep rocking in the free world. One of these days, I'm going to rewrite that song to keep on rocking in the gulag. And
But that's why I've been saying, the political landscape right now is being redrawn, reconstructed. A lot of friends that I have who are more left wing, I know they're on the wrong side of history because there's a lot of confusion and people don't really know what's going on. And people that you thought would be for liberty and justice, I think they're being, manipulated, brainwashed, and it's just all this strange messaging that's coming from government, and people are just like, they don't know what to make of it, and there's a lot of emotion involved, and that's why we see people like Neil Young, who, the guy is filthy rich. There's no way he's in touch with the common person anymore,
No.
and everything is just being flipped upside down.
Right.
So,
oh yeah, it's definitely the whole thing is flipped upside down.
It is flipped upside, and Joe Rogan is a brony boy, a Bernie bro, like brony boy. Excuse me, Joe Rogan is a Bernie bro, like he loves Bernie Sanders.
Yeah,
like he had him on his show, and he's always said, "I support Bernie Sanders." Look, all of these shows that if you're worried about misinformation, like I was raised in a time where we even had commercials about it where it talked about, the North American house hippo, and then the commercial goes on to say, well, don't believe everything you see on TV. Well, don't believe everything you listen to on the Joe Rogan podcast. It's a free discussion. That's all it is. It's a conversation. So,
well, we should get back to Ottawa and what happened down there today. And we kind of focused on this negative thing, but
yeah, so the vibe is still the same. I mean, it was very easy to move along and just, get into it. People still dancing in the front. I did notice there was a different protest going on right in front of Parliament, like in front of the main building. And it had something to do with the reconciliation and with the residential schools. And there were probably, 50 protesters all around I guess where we used to burn the eternal flame. They were all standing around that they had these purple flags, and it was, so it was a whole sub protest that was going on. So, and of course they were peaceful, quiet, but much the same. I did walk down Rideau Street, and days previous to that, like I think 2 days, I guess I didn't go down yesterday. So today I skipped a day and I went down Rideau Street today. And the last time that I had been there had been a few like great big combine, like the tractors, not combine, but the great big huge, enclosed tractors. And I remember saying, the farmers are here, but I didn't see those. So I don't know where they went. Maybe they went to Sarnia. No, just kidding. But I don't know where they went. They're gone. What I've noticed is there's been a bit of shifting of the trucks. Like there's open areas, but then I recognize the trucks with their signs on them, and it's like they're moving them. I feel like the side streets are starting to fill in just a little bit more. And I'm hopeful that possibly these spaces that are opening up are for more trucks to come in. So I'm anxious to go down tomorrow and see if they're filling in those main roads. I feel like they're kind of moving out of the line down into the side streets so that more trucks can come in, because there are still trucks out there, right? Yes. Truckers that I talked to say nobody's left. No one's been towed. The news talked about them towing someone, but they haven't been towed. They're saying no one's been towed.
And you said you talked to somebody with a tow truck today?
So I talked to these guys, and they have a tow truck company, and they're there with their pickup truck in solidarity, right? They're just there with the truckers. They fully support this. I did a little interview with them the day before. I talked to them a little bit, and I did a little bit again today. And what they said was that, because I wanted to know if it's even viable to tow trucks. Like, obviously, I know they're not there to tow. And I said, are there trucks here to, tow these trucks away? And he said, they believe not, because they said, first of all, every towing company they know is definitely for this movement. So they're not going to, compromise and come in and tow these people. They said there's not enough money in Ottawa. And they said, and it's pretty unlikely that they could safely tow the trucks away. And they went on to explain, the kind of space it takes to actually tow a car, never mind an 18-wheeler. I mean, that's massive. And he said, there's just no space. He said, and then if you take it one step further, honestly, where are they going to store these trucks if they tow them? Yeah. So he said, it's unrealistic to believe that they're going to tow trucks. That was their stance on that, or their opinion.
Now, you did talk about, you were concerned that there might be more agitators coming down there today, but You didn't see anything else like that?
Well, I personally didn't, but as I said, my friends are staying here, and they're leaving tomorrow. I was coming back up. They went ahead of me this evening, and they said they saw someone spitting. What was it? I guess a girl was dancing around, and then she was spitting at people. And so the police were there, and they swiftly took her and escorted her away from the hill. So,
I did read an article.
These women.
I did read an article recently, and it made mention that they did charge 2 people at some point, but they were both people from Ottawa. So, I mean, it kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah, and it's pretty clear that the two that, I mean, at least for me, the girl that was here, she was young. She lives in Ottawa. She was alone. I'm pretty sure that she was. And then I was looking at a clip with one of my friends, too, that somebody else had captured on live, where a gentleman and he was from Ottawa, and he was right downtown in front of the hill, and he was screaming at them, "Get out of my city," and really trying to agitate these truckers too. And the people, it was the same tone. They were just like, kind of, come on. I did hear someone in the background say, "Oh, take it easy, Karen," which I think was maybe a little bit much, but they were just trying to reason with this person. And I mean, we did have that one girl too that was standing in front of all the trucks shooting the finger, the girl with the blue hair.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wouldn't call her an agitator. I think she was just making her statement known. But I mean, clearly, as the days go on, I mean, we're at day 7. I think I'm believing that, I think the people from Ottawa are starting to become pretty annoyed, and they're angry because, I mean, I don't know if you guys are watching mainstream news, but they're really making it look like we're disrupting this city, to no end. And the one thing that really caught me on the news,
and it's
tonight,
not safe.
And that it's not safe. That was what I was just going to say. Like, one statement that they made on the news tonight, and this is the one that made me angry. They said that, little old ladies are afraid to leave their home. They're fearful. And I'm thinking, do you know how many senior little ladies I've interviewed, I've danced beside, I've talked to, I've hugged, I've loved on that are down there? And many were from Ottawa. So that statement alone. But I mean, think about it. The average person who's just a little bit on the edge, you tell them that grandma's too afraid to leave her house because these big bad people are in the city. They are going to fight back because they're going to defend grandma.
I did find an Instagram group where they are setting themselves up more or less so that they could help escort people who feel they're unsafe. Some wild accusation that there's firearms there, which I think is incredibly dangerous to talk about if you don't have proof of it. That they're claiming that some of these truckers have firearms, and that is totally irresponsible of any media organization to say that without having credible proof of it.
Well, I think that that's completely on purpose. Wouldn't it be a perfect tactic to say that the truckers have firearms so that anybody who's just a little bit just a little bit shaky brings their firearm down and starts to cause havoc? It is I'm feeling a little bit more apprehensive as the days go on after what I saw today, what I'm starting to see in social media. But again, there's just so much information out there. It's like, how do you siphon through it all? So if I just look at what I'm seeing, I saw one incident and my friend saw another, right?
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
So are the truckers, I mean, we've seen sort of like the regular supporter, the average citizen, if you will, kind of come and go, and some people coming in and going and coming. A much smaller crowd today than we saw on the weekend, of course, but the core group of truckers, are they now hunkered down and heels dug in and supplies coming in, and like they've dug the trench and now they're keeping their heads low and in for the long haul?
Yeah, for sure. Because even though like I said, there's less people today than there has been any of the days that I've been here. And remember, we were talking about the jerry cans, and I said, I'll go and look for them. I hadn't noticed them. Well, once I found one, suddenly today, all I saw were jerry cans. Now, that could be because we are at day 7 and maybe they need more fueling. Maybe they were full when we started, right? And they have been idling. so their diesel would last a little bit longer. But jerry cans were the main event today, and at the same time, the media was really off and on about the propane tanks and the jerry cans. They're talking about, how unsafe that is to have them that close to the hill, that close to the Parliament buildings.
Yeah.
But they are getting fuel to the trucks.
They're absolutely fueling those trucks. I saw so much of it today. So yeah, they're definitely hunkered down. I've been going the last 2 days. I've gone up pretty early in the morning, like between 6:30 and 7 a.m. And that's when I can see the truckers outside and things like that, right? And I was able to yesterday speak to at length with a trucker, and yeah, like the tone. And every time I come along a trucker that I'm able to run into, the story is always the same. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I had one say that he was going to trade off with another trucker, but he said, "Nah, I'm not going. In fact, my buddy's coming too." So
we have confirmed reporting of that type of tactic with Brian, a truck driver who we had spoken with yesterday. So he had kind of alluded to some of that. I did see on what the heck is it called? One sec, I just gotta check something.
So
Can't remember what it's called.
tomorrow's
ahead, Rick.
Friday.
mhm.
So I would think that you're going to see a bigger crowd tomorrow than we saw today.
Yeah, I'm expecting a huge crowd tomorrow. Honestly, and it'll be the same. Like in the morning, it's less, and then usually as it gets closer to noon, the crowd grows and grows. I'm expecting a much larger crowd, and definitely Saturday, I'm expecting huge. I mean, we were walking as a cohesive group down the sidewalk last Saturday. I can't even imagine, okay, so 4,000 is a lot. So even if it doubled what we had last weekend, and I don't know what the numbers exactly were, I don't think anyone really knows the exact number, but even if the crowd doubles, it's going to be really, really tight. So it's a little bit like, I'm not going to lie, I feel like it's been really wonderful through the week, and the vibe has been really good. And if we can keep that going, this is going to be okay. But the more, if there really are plans, if the citizens of Ottawa become more agitated, I'm fearful that this whole thing could just blow up on us, right?
Yeah.
So what are the people doing down there during the day? Just walking around? Are there speeches happening?
There's speeches happening. They go from like 10 or 11. They say they're going to start at 11. They usually start at 12. They go till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There'll be a speech, and then there'll be some intermittent music. And then people are just genuinely walking around, socializing, gathering around where the food is, stopping, pulling truckers' horns, talking to the truckers where they can, standing. There's so much time spent where they're standing. If you notice at that square area, I call it the square because it's kind of where the stage is. It's where the dance parties always are. There's a row of three trucks that are kind of facing the center of the square, and then they line up all the way down Rideau Street, and then the other side of that square, there's a row of 3 trucks, and they go all the way down Wellington Street. So it's almost like these 2 rows of trucks, they'll have this standoff of honking. Like one will start like blaring their horn, and then the other one will do it, and they almost make like an orchestra of music, Renee. And people just stand there and just embrace that horn. It's almost like it's some kind of a healing sound. So we see an awful lot of that. There is this one little guy that I've been catching on all of my videos every day. He's dressed in army fatigues, and he's got a Canadian flag. He's got a long beard. Looks like he's probably a veteran. And he stands there at attention, perfectly still, holding his flag for hours without moving. You know how the guards the guys that guard Buckingham Palace, how you can't make them do anything. This guy is the same thing. So if you ever watch my videos, when I scan that area, I always stop in on him and want to show him, because he's just, I find it remarkable that he can stand that still in these kind of temperatures.
Yeah.
And that's commitment, right?
And how cold is it there? And are you getting a lot of snow?
Well, I think they got, I'm going to say, I don't know. They were calling for 10 centimeters. We got nowhere near that. I think we probably got maybe 4 centimeters. But what was remarkable to me was the sense of community and the teamwork that was put into clearing the sidewalks. Like all of the sidewalks were salted, not by the city. All of the roads in and around the whole Parliament Hill area were actually shoveled, hand shoveled by people that were there and salted by people that were there. It was remarkable.
Yeah, we saw the footage of people shoveling.
And how clean the streets look.
Yeah.
They were so clean and
Yeah,
shoveled better and cleaned better than they usually are by the city. And so that's why I'm quite troubled with the mayor constantly discussing, overspending. What do they say? They're over $3 million now, at day 7. Well, and they're saying it's, from city costs and things. I think it would be the police that they're bringing in, because I'm pretty sure if you're bringing police in from Hamilton, you're bringing the OPP, you're bringing Toronto police. These aren't guys that are on their normal schedule. They're not going to give up those cops. These are overtime police officers, right? They're making overtime.
Yeah, big time.
So,
And there's another thing that you'll probably need to take a look out for this weekend. I did find a Reddit where it looks like they're trying to organize a counter protest.
I was going to bring that up. I saw that too. So yeah, that's the deal. Is they're watching for a counter protest, and that again, that makes me a little bit nervous too, right?
Yes, because the tensions are high, and people are upset. So I'll just make some points about the Reddit here. It says masks are encouraged. I understand. It says if you have an exception to not wear a mask, stay home. It says dress warm. It'll be a long day. Be ready to stand for over 3 hours. Bring food, water. Don't be like them. Bring enough supplies to tide you over for the event. The downtown workers are having a hard enough time without large groups of people taking over their businesses. Well, let's break that one down a little bit. They did bring their own food. They do pay for their own food, and
we're supporting the businesses that are open, but many closed because the city told them to be afraid and not to open.
And so it says here as well, bring signs, not hate. We will not tolerate hateful imagery or threats of violence, and we cannot wish death upon these people. We are better than that. So neither did we, because anytime those signs were ever caught on camera, those people were shamed and they were kicked out from the crowd. So I don't understand their point with that. And it does say hearing protection is encouraged. Final thoughts. I went last Saturday. These people are not good for our city. I understand those who are scared. That's what they want. If you find safety in numbers, come join us. We are the people of Ottawa. We are Canadians. We are the strongest when we are together. But we need you, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, do you think, I kind of don't think anything's going to happen with them, because I don't think they're as committed.
Yeah, I hope not. I don't know. I don't know who that girl was today, and I don't know who the spitter was, but
yeah,
maybe. I mean, as long as, if there is any aggression I can only speak for the side that I'm hanging out with, right? If people can keep that love vibe going, during all of this, what I saw today, it was just there was so much tolerance and so much compassion for this girl. Everyone saw her the same way that I saw her, right? And so if we could keep that vibe going, I think that we could probably counteract any violence. And at the same time, and if that's truly their intention, it sounds like whoever's organizing this counter protest wants the same thing that we want. They want peace. They want it to be a peaceful protest. So I just hope it doesn't all go bad. I mean, wouldn't it just be the perfect storm, Justin Trudeau, if we had the counter protest, we had the truckers convoy counter protest, and throw a few paid actors in there?
This whole thing might have almost worked out better if the convoy disguised itself as a BLM convoy, and then when it got there, it goes, actually, we're anti-mandate.
Yeah, true. I don't know.
Yeah, and still,
I don't know how long this is going to go on. To be fair, I really expected Justin Trudeau to speak to these people before this.
That was my next question. You haven't seen anyone from government down there extending an olive branch or coming down to talk to you at all?
No, but Candice Bergen actually said in the House of Commons today, she said, when are we going to extend an olive branch to these people. So, our conservative government seems to be rising up a little bit, minus O'Toole. So I don't know what's going to happen. There was a Saskatchewan MP and I believe Andrew Scheer and some other Saskatchewan members of parliament that were standing with the truckers. And I'm sure you saw this on the news, and they caught a picture of them standing there looking to be in support of them. And when the one, I can't remember the man's name, the MP, it was the one from one of the ridings in Saskatchewan. He was questioned by the media, and they were like, what are you doing down there? Why are you supporting them? And he said, we went down there to listen. They're our constituents. Those are our Saskatchewan truckers, and they have a right to be heard. So, and they're conservative. These are conservative MPs. So I'm thinking that maybe our conservative government might be just rising up,
A little bit. Of course, with politicians,
but they are.
Yeah. But, that they see it as a political opportunity too, I'm sure.
And then that was my next thing, is it's probably a little bit of opportunity given with an election coming, right? I mean, I'm sure getting rid of O'Toole was more of a political maneuver than it was to, help us.
Yes.
I don't quite trust any side at this point until they make a firm commitment to end the mandates, because they have been using different dialogue like freedom and all this other stuff, but I still haven't heard out of any of their mouths yet, we need to end all these mandates. I think Pierre Poilievre might have said something like that, but
he's been saying it. Yeah.
He's been using words like...
He's been downtown. Oh, Chris Sky was there today. That was another thing.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I don't even know if he spoke. I did have to go back because my phone was dying. So but I did see him when I came back up. I did a little interview with him. I'm not sure you can hear it though, because the truck started blaring as soon as I kind of got it where he was standing, he's quite animated. You might be able to read his lips, but the main deal was, what I asked him was, what brought you here? And he was like, well, he gave me the obvious statement because he wants to, fight the mandates. He wants to stand with the people. And then he gave an excuse as to why he's waited so long to come. So I'm wondering if he hasn't gotten some, backlash from his supporters of, what took you so long to get to Ottawa? And he just said, because they didn't really need me. But what he did say, and I said to him, what I really wanted to know was, hey, what do you think of the vibe that's here? Because remember, in previous talks that we've had, I was a little concerned about him because he brings with him a big personality, big energy, and it might not have matched what was happening there. And I thought that, it could cause some aggression maybe, or just get people a little more amped up than they need to be. And anyway, he said, oh my gosh, his words were, there's so much love and unity here. And I was like, thank God, there's Chris Sky. Okay. So I saw a big soft side of Chris Sky today. So.
Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad that went well, because I mean, you had told me your concerns about how he gets a little excited. I
like him and I respect what he's done. He's freed so many people, right? He's helped so many people gain the ability and the freedom to go into places without a mask and drop their mask. So I appreciate what he does. It's just he is a big personality, and I think that when we're already fearing that there's going to be some agitators, his personality might just be over the top. So but he's catching that love wave, so it's pretty good.
Well, I hope he keeps the love wave. I mean, I'm not honestly a big fan of Chris Sky's because of the way he has attacked some people and criticized some people and yelled at some people. I don't like that. But I know that he has a lot of followers, and I do recognize that his actions have, I guess, motivated some people to get involved. So, and he does have a lot of people watching him, that's for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out too, right? So there's just a lot of new little elements that have happened, like on this little Thursday where there were less people. But I think the big takeaway for me today was just seeing how all of those gentlemen and how everybody responded to the one girl. And secondly, it was the lack of the fact that the police took so long to form, within the afternoon, like about 2:00 in the afternoon. That's when the police, you could really see their presence again. And I'm like, where were they all morning? I just found it odd.
I guess it is good to see people unified on the freedom side, right? And I guess we are seeing all of the sort of the figureheads or the leaders or the people who have emerged as leaders in the movement making their way to Ottawa. We've seen it from the beginning, whether it's Dr. Hodgkinson or Maxime Bernier or Chris Sky or any of these people, Randy Hillier. The list goes on. Pastor Hildebrandt, Aaron Rock from Windsor.
Yeah, there's been some really great people.
Yeah.
Let's not forget about Toronto. They're gathering in Toronto at the legislature this weekend too.
Right.
Yep.
So we can't forget about that. It's kind of interesting. A good friend of mine from Sarnia, he was here in Ottawa last weekend, wanted to come back this weekend, couldn't get a hotel, so he decided he's going to go to Ottawa. So I'm going to do a live from Ottawa on Saturday, and then he's going to do a live from Toronto, and we're going to, connect our lives. So I'm going to see how that's going to work out, right?
I'm curious to know how the difference in things is going to be. We did have Rick Nichols on. He works at the Ontario Legislature, and he told us it's rather quite cramped there. So see what type of contrast we'll have.
That's what I wanted to see, was the contrast.
Yeah. I'll bet you Ottawa is still going to be better off than probably Toronto, but Toronto has had a lot of major rallies in the past 2 years.
I just went to a rally maybe 3-4 weeks ago with Maxime Bernier when we did that march in Toronto. It was great.
Yes. So do you have any predictions for tomorrow? Today might be the calm before the storm. If tomorrow is going to get hit hard with people. So any predictions for tomorrow and into the weekend?
You know what? I actually don't. I've been kind of thinking about that since I got back, I just feel like it's 50-50. It could go either way, right? The more people, there might be just more smiling faces, new people coming and seeing and picking up that Canadian pride and, just learning about unity, or it could go the other way. I don't know. I have no prediction. It's a blank slate to me. I don't know.
But I guess the thing to consider here is the government, Trudeau still digging in. The municipality, their rhetoric seems to be more confrontational than increasingly confrontational. Especially from the mayor, from even the police service, the senior administration with the police service. Maybe not on the ground.
Are great. They say it's been great.
But when you see the news conference from the deputy police chief, the words that he's using, they're looking for a way to get this protest ended. They want it gone, right? And the way the media and the politicians locally are talking about how the merchants are afraid to open their businesses and all of this kind of talk. So it seems to me like the peace is only going to last so long. The authorities are only going to tolerate it for so long. And if Justin doesn't come out to talk to somebody, then at some point it's going to come to a head. That's
I almost feel like it's a volcano waiting to erupt at some point,
Well, we know all the hotels are booked. We know there's going to be a lot of people there. So we'll have to wait and see. We'll be here for the ride. Is there anything else that anybody wanted to talk about this evening?
I don't really have anything else to say. I mean, it's just been,
Well, are those merchants, are many merchants opening anyway? I mean, for me, it seems like it's an opportunity for a lot of them to do a lot of business because you have so many people down there.
It's crazy. Like one of my friends, she loves to shop, and she said multiple times over the last 3 days that she's been here, like, I can't believe these stores aren't opening. Like, people would shop. And I said, well, maybe they just figure that, we're not here to do that. She's like, well, I would. But then I watched the news tonight, and it's clear that the mayor has made them terrified to open, right? We still have that one Tim Hortons. It's at the corner of Slater and Metcalf. They're the ones that are letting us in. We get to sit inside. We can, we're treated like human beings. We can use the washroom. I mean, no QR code. So it's a pretty busy spot. There's a shawarma place across the street that serves us food, and a couple of Tim Hortons. A Starbucks is open. Not a lot of restaurants, no retail that I've seen. I think there's a little souvenir shop up on Metcalf that I've seen open. I didn't look at the mall when I went down to Rideau Street today, so I don't know if the mall is opened up again.
I believe the mall is closed. I
Yeah,
think
so my
it's
friend,
been
yeah, she just said she was down there. Deb said she was down there, and she doesn't think so.
so they shut that down since Saturday. We did have
Right.
footage on the ground that there's all kinds of people in there, and they were quite upset. The mall security was quite upset that all these people who weren't wearing masks had gone in there. So the mall has been closed for a week now.
Since
So they
last Saturday.
closed down the mall and they haven't reopened it?
That's right,
Right.
yeah.
No, these businesses it's virtually everything's closed. There's a Shoppers Drug Mart that's open. And there are a few restaurants here and there if you walk far enough away from the hill, but they're not open for dining. They're all takeout only still. So business isn't business as usual. I mean, the hill is still, the businesses like the Parliament is still operating, but like retail and restaurant is not. They're actually kind of locked down because of this in a sense. I mean, they've chosen, they've decided for themselves to do it, but it's been fueled by the government, right?
It's kind of
Right,
funny.
so-
Like the municipality, I should say, like by the mayor.
It's kind of like when you fall down and you scrape your knee, but instead of like blaming yourself, they go, the protesters did this to me, but it was really the
Right,
government
so you
tripping
can see
them.
this is where I'm fearing that things are going to kind of escalate, right?
Yeah, but it's not the protesters that are forcing them to close at this point. It's the government making them too fearful to open.
Exactly. It's more of the psychological game, right? Like, I mean, this has been so psychological, all of this, right?
Yes.
With the manipulation and the lies from the media, with the programming from the government, all the way into, I mean, I don't know about you guys, when you go in the grocery store, do you not hear that overhead programming? It's been going on for 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah, constantly on the radio, always on TV.
Yeah. Like,
COVID, constant.
yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. I really don't, guys. I know I'm going to go down there and I'm going to be hopeful. I'm going to have a smile on my face. I'm going down there with the intention for it to be exactly what it's been all along, peaceful. And but I definitely am going to be a little bit more mindful of my surroundings too tomorrow.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And moving
Well,
in Saturday.
I would think that if the authorities are going to do anything, they'll do it when there are the fewest number of people there, and the least possibility of anybody being injured or hurt in any way, minimal pushback and so on. So, people are going to go down there in big numbers this weekend. And I know that the mayor, but it might have been police service. They did acknowledge that they're expecting a huge crowd again this weekend. So I think we can, with that being said, expect to see this continue through the weekend and into at least the early part of next week in Ottawa before we get any kind of major action on the part of the authorities. That would be my guess.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
Yeah. So I think we've got some stability between now and then, and hopefully you guys can do something to get somebody to come out and talk to you so that a peaceful resolution to this thing can be reached and a productive resolution for Canadians.
Yeah, and I do think that for sure the Conservative government supports that, right? Like they're questioning Justin Trudeau all over the place. Like, hey, can't you just talk to the people? Like, you need to speak to these people. You can't just keep ignoring. It's just, he's got his heels dug in, as do the truckers. So it's just a case of You know, who's going to give in first? I mean, and I honestly don't think it's going to be the truckers.
You know what? We talked about this with Rick Nichols just a little bit, but I'll say it here again. I think this whole thing has weakened Justin Trudeau substantially. Canadians are beginning in large numbers to see through the lies, the deceit, and the hate. They're beginning. His hatred is being has been exposed. They're realizing that his words are divisive, that the things he's been accusing you guys of are the things that he's guilty of himself.
Yeah.
And because of that, I'm actually kind of optimistic that there might be a good resolution in the end to this thing, because with this kind of thing going down, you've got O'Toole, he's gone, and I think Trudeau himself is on shaky ground with not only Canadians, but even the people within his own party now. I think he's made some major missteps here. He's misread this thing. He's underestimated the truckers, not realizing that what he's really dealing with here is Canadians.
Yeah.
And we got more on the way. We got, this thing is like the Hydra at this point. Doesn't matter what you cut off. We're going to get more in Toronto. We're going to get more. There's things that I'm hoping to report better on tomorrow, but there looks like there's things happening in my town.
They're everywhere.
So it's popping up everywhere. Alberta's having a go with it, with multiple border shutdowns, and this is responsible for the moving of millions of dollars of goods every day. They can't do that very properly right now. So
it's a peaceful revolution. That's exactly what it is.
Canada,
but it's also a standoff, right?
The great Canadian standoff, and we got to remain peaceful with it. And I think events over this weekend, if they do go well, especially in Toronto, if Toronto can give us what they've given us before, I think that it could be enough to make Justin Trudeau change his mind a little bit or rethink about what he's done.
I agree with you. I think if this weekend remains peaceful and everybody kind of keeps their cool and we can just get past this weekend, that might just be the end of it. We might see some changes on Monday. I mean, let's face it, when you just to speak to, when you were saying about how he's lost the faith of the Canadians on the whole, it doesn't matter what side you're on. I mean, who wants a leader that just hides and refuses to address anything?
Yeah.
I mean, that was one of his first and biggest mistakes.
Especially because, we're the joke of the world right now, because in India, if y'all remember, we had that in India, they had this massive farmers protest. I can't remember what exactly it was about, but there was a farm uprising in India. People were all bent out of shape about all kinds of stuff, and Justin Trudeau is there telling the Indian government what to do. Well, they had a big laugh at us, and their reporter went out and said, Justin Trudeau was telling us how to resolve our affairs, and here he is hiding like a coward. So, we don't look good to the world at all right now, it stands.
When you look at all the world leaders, not a single one of them respects him right now. They're looking to him going, come on.
Yeah.
There's no idea.
And Adam Beans has a point here. Lots of your Eastern Europeans stand up against tyranny in Canada. And that makes me think, too, that the additional pressure being placed on Trudeau and all the governments here in Canada is that other governments around the world are dropping these mandates.
Right. And let's not forget that the countries that aren't dropping the mandates, they're actually having truckers convoy. So these world leaders are looking to Justin Trudeau and saying, if you got us into this mess, it was your people that took this stand first and you didn't stop it. So therefore we can, it happened to us now.
Right. And in Ontario, we're seeing the, Ontario's top doctor, Kieran Moore, today has come out and said these vaccines are not really effective against transmission. And now he's saying we maybe need to rethink our position on these vaccine passports. So that's more pressure on Justin Trudeau and Doug Ford to do something, right?
That might be our saving grace, actually. So if we get the chief medical officer to say, well, this clearly isn't working, we're going to have to scrap the mandate. And then Doug Ford would be like, see, it's not me, it's him. He's not going to take responsibility for anything. We already know that.
Are they going to follow the darn science or not?
Yeah.
And I think that, all of the things we've just discussed, it's very simple. If you want to look at it, it's just everything is unraveling around him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Adam is right about this too. Public health and the government have no more credibility. Public trust in public health has been eroded. It's damaged.
Absolutely.
This is a big, big problem, and I don't know if people will ever trust our medical officers of health and our institutions the way that they used to again. I just don't see it.
No, I agree.
And maybe we shouldn't. We probably shouldn't. We need more checks and balances in place to make sure that people are protected, that our rights and freedoms are protected.
Well, I think, moving forward, I mean, in a perfect world, when this all ends, we do have to kind of almost restructure things, right? Because we've gotten so far off the beaten path of what democracy is. I think it would be difficult and challenging for anyone to even find it again.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I'm going to get some sleep for tonight, and I'll be up there early. Like I said, I'm going to go in there with the same exact attitude, expecting the same thing that I'm seeing, but I am going to be a little bit more mindful of my surroundings.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you weren't hurt when you were assaulted today. That's very concerning. And I have to say, you're a better person than I am, because I don't know if I would have been able to keep my cool the way that you did. I really admire you.
You know what? The truth is, I love people. I understand people. And I think being a nurse too, having a little background in healthcare helps a bit, because I've seen people at their very worst, right? So you learn to overcome a little bit, and you learn to just have a little bit of empathy. Yeah. I mean, I'm just able to look at the big picture.
No, it's we definitely appreciate everything that you brought to us, and your footage has been phenomenal, and your all your updates you've been able to give us has been phenomenal.
I don't know. I mean, watching that footage from that scenario with this girl, I learned a few things. Do not goof around and sing on there. Make sure that my voice isn't so close. It's like I need to learn the tricks, right? But I do appreciate that you guys have been watching my footage and following it, because my only goal in this is just to let people see what's really happening, and really so that people can feel what I'm feeling when I'm there, because it really is. It's the vibe that I have been feeling has been intoxicating.
Yeah.
Truly, that's the best word for it.
No, I have loved every moment of it. Keep it coming. And I can't wait to get another update from you on tomorrow. So that should be...
Yeah, I can't wait to get there tomorrow. I can't wait to see all the people and see everybody's reaction.
Yes. So we'll have to talk about what time for that. But if things are really exciting there, so we'll have to wait and see about that. But yeah, definitely we look forward to getting updates from you tomorrow and seeing what has changed with the massive influx that is going to be encroaching on Ottawa.
Yeah. Well, I'll keep you up to date.
All right. Thank you, Carla.
And you'll probably be able to hear my interviews better because I have a microphone coming. I'm so excited about that. I really am. All right, guys. Have a good night.
All right.
You too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Well. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
And there we go. She's awesome. And even though we started with, her video where she was, confronted by, and when she showed all that negative stuff, it's amazing that every person that was approached, that the guy that she had his coffee hit, she hit his coffee out of his hand, that woman, and all that other stuff, and everybody kept their cool. And in the end, they're all kind of, they're praying for her. And wow. It's just,
there's a lot, a lot of good things coming out of this, and it's been great to be able to work with you and get these things out to the public, because we definitely know there's mainstream media, we cannot count on them for any of this stuff. Like we've added to the narrative. I firmly do believe that.
Yeah, I think that that's why we did this, because we knew that the story, the spin that would be coming out of the mainstream media would be distorted and wouldn't present an accurate picture for people. So that's why we're here. And that's why Carla is down there. And we're showing you as much raw footage from the scene as possible and getting, a different perspective, another side of the story for you folks. And that's why we're here this week and have been. And we'll be back tomorrow night at 6 p.m. with more coverage of Freedom Convoy 2022 cruising to the Capitol. You want to sign off there, Brenden, and tell them who you are?
This is Brenden Kennedy with the Flow of Discourse podcast, that is, and it's been a pleasure.
And I'm Rick Walker with Maverick News and Maverick Multimedia. And again, see all you folks back here tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. And if you're so inclined, please subscribe and click that bell for notifications. And check us out on Facebook as well. We'll see you